Hey, everybody. Happy Sunday. Thank Cthulhu. It's Sunday. You get to hang out with us again. And tonight we're doing our Owlite Society show where we bring you lots of stories from all of our favorite people who tell us stories. Sometimes we have authors, sometimes we have just us. Tonight we have with us from the Dorkening podcast, the monkey behind the keyboard, Leo Pond, who taunts us with all these amazing stories as he's going through. And we're finally going to drag them out of him tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Focus on Leo, the slayer of snakes, I don't know what we'd call you with the comic book store that you ran. That one's fun. We have all these stories.
Comic book store?
I wasn't in a comic book store that you ran for your boss when he was.
Video game store.
Oh, video game store.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
I had a place that I managed for a while too.
So you want the Yakuza story tonight?
Yeah, we need the snake story because we have pictures even, and the Yakuza story is, because I can throw in with that one. I managed a place that also had police interference going on in it at one point, only it was involved with pizza.
Oh.
To be fair, every place I've managed here in Ohio has had police involvement at some point.
And so we've got Raz. Jeremy will be joining us at some point soon, as will Jenny. She's having times around. As always, on this show, we try to set up and cater to the guests, and just if people need to go early, they go early. If they need to come late, they come late. So we work things out that way.
Yeah. I'm going to call myself out right now because if you look close enough, I have makeup on my face because I was playing a corpse that was coming back to life for this film, and that's what I was doing after haunt build today. So I got all the makeup I could off there at the haunt because we were filming there too. Got into a car and had Michelle. I was like, I will not look at the road in front of me so I don't freak out. Drive as fast as you need to. And I just kind of closed my eyes and we drove home. And I got here right on time.
How far was the drive?
A 35-minute drive, not too bad.
Okay.
I love how we always measure it in minutes in the Midwest. It's not how many miles, it's how many minutes is the drive.
Same here in New England, totally.
Yeah.
And you guys are all close. I'm so excited. By the way, guys, if I haven't announced this here yet, I'm going to be going to Terrificon at the end of this month, and I'm going to be joining this gentleman down here as well as other members of the Dorkening Network, of which I'm also part of.
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to be so much fun, and you'll get to hear all these great stories, and I finally get to meet the gentleman behind the screens. So
I'm excited for you. That's where you guys all live down there is barely an extended day trip from where I'm at in Ohio because I'm at it's like towards the southern edge of Ohio right now. So it's like nothing to get straight over there to the right. The east,
nice.
Sorry. I said right like it. I'm looking at the map and it goes right, not east.
About how far of a drive is it for you?
I haven't looked down in the hours exactly, but if I had to guess, I'm gonna say somewhere between like 8 to 10 maybe.
Oh, that's not bad.
Maybe it's not that bad because we went all the way down to New York City from where I grew up, and that was only like about 11 or 12-hour drive.
Okay. I once did a. Sorry.
no.
No. I was just gonna say when I was moving back from Florida, I drove from Naples, which is southern Florida, to Connecticut. Did it in one shot. It was a 29-hour drive, and I got lost. And for some reason, I ended up in Pennsylvania at one point. I'm like, what the fuck? I took a wrong turn at Albuquerque, you know?
That's easy to do. I know that drive, man. Not from Naples. It was from Orlando to Dayton, Ohio. But like, you get to a certain point when you're one-shotting it, because we always do, where you just get so fucking exhausted of seeing the same shit that it's so easy to just turn right off the highway or turn off onto a side highway that you think is connected to everything, but isn't. And then you're in another state and you're like, oops, that happened.
Yeah. And then like on 95, it changes names, in Jersey. And then at one point, like they, I remember like several rest stops were closed. So it's like, holy crap,
Yep.
It can be a painful drive.
Yep.
Oh, we love the drive. So my mom, I'm getting much better at being a navigator, but I was able to when I was younger, and now I'm like a baby in the car. As soon as it starts moving, I just pass out. I'm just sound asleep for like 10 hours or something, and she needs to have a navigator to keep her awake. So when we go on the trips, I try to stay like, well, she'll go from Omaha to New Orleans in like one drive, and we'll stop off like, okay, we're going to stop off in Memphis or something and grab something to eat there and hit Beale Street real quick, take a couple pictures, and then keep going. And there was one time, we've taken a couple of different routes, and you never want to get lost in Mobile, Alabama, because there's one section of it that is Gotham, like straight up, and you can't get out of there if you accidentally go. And another part, we just crossed the line into, I believe it was Kentucky, and there was like this clan. It was straight out of House of a Thousand Corpses. There was this like, what do you call it? It's not a flea market, but it's like its own little store thing with junk markets and antiques and everything that had like clowns all over it. And I was like, we got to go in there. And she's like, that's where you get murdered. No, we aren't going in there.
We call those antique stores.
Yeah. Okay. So this antique store along the side of the road, she's like, we'll get, oh my God, look at that. And I'm like, what? Like, she wants me to look away from the murder thing, so I can't get there. There were two, and this goes on to you. There were two snakes crossing the road from either side, about like you could see them both at the same time, but both were as long as the highway was wide. Like,
oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was like, as soon as you go over, the trees are now hanging with dead moss and everything. Mm-hmm. Like that Spanish moss, just all, and we were like, okay, so welcome to Kentucky. Let's turn.
That sounds about right. I mean, where I'm at now, like we're close to the Kentucky border, but I've spent a lot of time in Kentucky. It's like that. I mean, you're lucky the snakes were alive. They weren't just dead snakes that somebody stretched across the road, because that's pretty normal too.
Really?
We just don't question it. Yeah, it's, it happens.
Oh, we get to towns. And you get to, well, they aren't really towns. Well, they're towns. And no offense to anybody from Kentucky. This was just a really weird experience for someone from Nebraska. But like, there would be like 10 or 15 churches being advertised. And then there was like, okay, and we have junk sales. This one's an antique shop. And this one is like, literally they're labeling it like other people's shit. Come buy it. And all of the houses are built out of the rock that is alongside the road.
I know exactly where you were.
And so it's just like, what do? Do you just like go around and trade each other's stuff? I mean, like, this can't be something that a lot of people go and buy. It's like, oh, I'm driving through Kentucky. I better stop at the flea market in this scary ass little town and pick up Joe's Tupperware from 3 years ago.
Yep, that's those are normal. Those are like the equivalent to swap meets, basically, is what they are. They're like citywide or town-wide, because I mean they're incorporated cities, but they're really just little towns. A good chunk of my family, my southern family, that's actually from Kentucky, it's from the place where neon lights were invented. It's actually called Neon, Kentucky, and a lot of the rich people live up in the hills. And the poor people live down at the bottom, at the base, where all the houses are built into kind of the mountain, because it floods all the time and they don't care about the poor people. So that's how the whole town was situated. And a lot of towns were there like that. But the other thing they joke about is if you go down the highway through Kentucky and you blink, you miss a whole town. Here's why. Because these small towns are actually a lot bigger than you think, but they're not very wide. They're very narrow towns and very long. So as you're going through on the highway, it's like an exit or two, if that, and you're through the town because you're going this way. But lengthwise, those little towns are expansive and they go really far back. It's weird how it's sectioned off like that.
It's like there's a church for every 10 people. And
Yep. Parts of Ohio were like that too, though. Like where I grew up, there was 9 different churches. One time, one of the mini tornadoes that hit there, it hit all 9 of the churches. Did almost no damage anywhere else to any of the neighborhoods. No one died. Very little destruction anywhere. But all 9 churches got hit, like majorly in some way, and everybody was just like, "Holy shit!" That was the message.
Yeah, somebody's saying something there.
It was weird, man.
Speaking of Kentucky, Ratatosker gets the night off tonight since we can squirrel out, but he does want to show off his Screwball peanut butter whiskey. Nice. So he's going to be off drinking. Oh, and here we go. We got A Jar Jar.
Jeremy.
Jar Jar.
One's on. Whoops.
Oops.
How's it going, everybody?
It's good, man. I take issue with your shirt. What if I want to say yes to kryptonite?
Well, it hurts. It doesn't feel very good.
Man.
It's not nice. Stop it. Okay.
2 mile
Weirdly-
yard.
Oh yeah, the 2 mile yard. We have those two that stretch from the edge of Ohio all the way in Kentucky, and there's another one that goes all the way through Tennessee, and it's like miles and miles. It's the largest flea market / yard sale in the world, and you can look it up. It just stretches for like multi states. It's crazy.
Oh wow.
Hey,
I've
that's,
heard about
that's my
that.
bearded lady at the freak show that just coming.
I can't
Yeah.
imagine having that big of a sale. But
I think Leo's camera is haunted.
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to adjust something. We have some pretty big flea markets in New England. I know there's a Jewett City flea market, which they took over an old mill, and it's like 4 stories high. It's a huge mill, and that's full. And then the outside during the summer, they fill that as well. And
Trying to remember the name of the big one out here in Western Mass.
well, I think Lou hit the one I'm talking about, the Jewett City Flea Market. I think that's where he got that Batgirl #1.
And correct me if I'm wrong, don't they sell carnival rides out there on the outside of the mill? Because I think I know a guy that actually bought that tilt-a-whirl from that particular flea market you're talking about.
Well, that flea market also does auctions, and
Okay, that's
you can
probably-
buy, you can buy all sorts of shit. Like I bought a t-shirt press from there.
Nice.
Yeah, and I actually rented space there another lifetime ago, and I used to do sign work. So actually, I have it in the corner there. You can't see it. It's
hold on a second.
it's a plotter next to the air conditioner.
There
Yeah,
we go.
yeah. You can barely see it. Well, anyway,
I'm gonna make you tell this story. So
geez. So yeah, I was doing sign work, so I decided to get a plotter and try to sell on eBay and whatnot. But at one time, I was renting space at the flea market, so I'd lug my plotter there every weekend and cut decals on site. I'd have like a book of like designs and stuff, or if somebody wanted special lettering or whatnot. But prior to that, I was working for a complete psycho. It was my first sign job. And actually, the reason why I got the job was I was unemployed at the time. And I saw a friend of a friend suggested that I call this guy. And he has me go to his house for the interview, which was completely weird. And he's like, if you can learn this equipment in 24 hours, you got a job. And I'm like, holy shit, so I'm trying to figure it out, trying to learn the equipment. I was able to figure it out. So he hires me. Turns out his previous graphic designer also like up and left. But it turned out the guy was a complete, like, he had anger management issues. When you do sign work, you have these razors to pluck out to weed the excess vinyl. So when you're doing vinyl, it's like a sheet of vinyl, and the machine cuts the design, and you weed out what you don't want, and then put tape over it to mask it. But to weed, you normally use these really sharp, hobby razors. And he would like throw them across the room, and he'd throw shit all the time and just go psycho when something didn't go his way. So I was totally fed up with him. So I left one night. I just grabbed all my stuff and, quit without notice. And one day I see him at the flea market, and he saw me, doing, selling sign work. And that day there was several nails in my tires. And
What the hell?
I wonder who did that, but
Yeah.
yeah, but
It's psycho. And weeding is so much easier these days because Cricut has those little weeding tools. Now it's so weird.
Yeah.
It's so weird how far that's come.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Still fun though. I still, cut stuff time to time, it's, I've been thinking about doing eBay stuff, but I gotta sell all my toys and stuff first, you know.
Yeah.
You need decals, folks. His information is either up above or down below, depending on where you're looking. I steal everything from you, by the way, Leo. I didn't realize, and I have to apologize. A couple of weeks ago on the show, I started the opening and I was doing things, and I was like, I'd been a Leo a week or so before that, and Drew just straight up called me out. He's like, "Stop being Leo. You're not him."
That's funny.
So yes, everyone, this is the man who I tend to imitate when I go into like immediate podcast mode, and I'm like, "Hi, da da da." Yeah, I'm being Leo. You meet me this year. We're going to meet you. When do we get to meet you?
Oh, when I do that haunt cast from the haunt this fall, yeah.
Yeah, I need to sell some stuff as well, Leo. My comics are out of control. Yeah. It's just the busyness of like the world and trying to list stuff, and then it's like a whole job if you want to actually like go sell on eBay and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to need your help, your guidance, Jar Jar. I think the first thing I need to sell is I have some Japanese Yu-Gi-Oh cards, like unopened cases.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah,
nice.
I was just looking up some on eBay, and one of them is like 2,800.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, when I first started selling them, I got screwed. I think the guy like claimed he didn't
get it. Not in a good way.
Yeah, not in a good way. But it was a Blue Eyes White Dragon unopened box. And I was trying to sell it for 600, and I think he claimed that he didn't get it. Yeah, but I was
they always go with the seller too on eBay.
Oh yeah, totally. And I was looking for that set on eBay just to see how much it's going for. Dude, it's like $10,000 now. Unopened set. It's insane. When I sold it, it was probably 12 or 13 years ago that I sold it.
See, I'm saving my Boba Fett for one day selling it. It's like in those range of numbers, and I'm always like, but what's the day that you wait for?
Yeah.
Like,
well, yeah, because you never know if something's going to go up or down. Like,
exactly.
I just saw today that friggin' Nintendo Powers are now like skyrocketing in price.
Yeah.
Like what the hell? You know,
I would say for the Boba Fett to wait till the disappointment from the TV show dies down a little bit, and the price will probably go up even farther.
Oh, I'm gonna wait till another 15 to 20 years, I'm sure. Retirement age, just be like, all right, I'm done. Here you go. Here, world, take all my collectibles.
I had wondered how that was going to be popular, because when I wasn't doing comic shows when I was a kid, I would do sports card shows because there's decent money in sports cards. And Michael Jordan decided he wanted to be a baseball player. They sold 100 plaques worldwide, only 100, and it was his rookie baseball card. I paid $50 for this thing, which back in the 90s was like $200 now. And I was like, this thing is going to be my retirement fund. Man, when that all went south, I got $20 out of that damn thing.
I still have
sports cards are coming back now. You should have held. Should have held.
Honestly, with all the tornadoes and floods I've been through and lost everything, I'd just be more pissed off that I lost it.
I lost my entire comic book collection when I first went off to college. It was one of those, like, somebody wanted to go through some of the stuff, and so rather than trying to sort everything, I just brought everything to him, like, oh, here's the boxes. Okay. And then there was like this house fire. And it's just like, I don't know if I believe the house fire or not. I mean, I didn't go see, they didn't take me to see the flaming husk of the house, but they lost a bunch of recording equipment and stuff that they had. So maybe, but regardless, I didn't have my comics anymore. So I went back and I just bare bones what I really needed. And I have the entire initial in like all perfect condition, well, as perfect as you can get from other people, but all bagged and boarded of the original Sandman run, or not the Neil Gaiman Sandman ones. And some of them I have multiples of, and I was super excited about having that. And then they reprinted everything, and the value just went to hell. And it was just like, well, at least I still have them, though. For sentimentality, if nothing else.
Comics go back and forth. I'm telling you, as soon as paper goes out of style and everybody goes digital, I'm going to be filthy rich.
I think that's going to happen sooner rather than later, if I'm being honest with you, because that's a big thing in the literary world. A lot of people are going to Kindle and everything now, and there's this big push. There's a lot of people that are like, no, we still miss the feel and smell of real books. Like and it's the same with comics. Like everything, like the tactile, everything. It's an experience.
I'm a mixture of the two. I still own them all, and I don't know if I'll get rid of them. But I started reading everything digitally.
Yeah. I've been back to reading digitally on everything.
Yeah, it's just easier. Like, I got to take a book out of a bag and board, sit there, flip through it, put it back in the bag and board, make sure I'm not like manhandling it when I'm reading it.
Yeah. And audiobooks are bigger than ever before, with more people commuting in our world than before. Like audiobooks, sometimes I know people that don't read at all. They will not physically read comics or books. Go catch an audio version. There's so many people out there that do the audio versions of the comics and everything
my
too.
girlfriend's big on the audio. She's listening to Game of Thrones right now. Nice. She's on like the 7th book or something like that.
Well, also Amazon does, I think it's the Whisper Sync. Like, and my wife does that, where like she can read it in her Kindle, and like where she leaves off, like the audiobook can pick up.
Well,
that's so really cool.
It is really cool.
Your public library all have this wonderful Libby app where you can download tons of audiobooks.
I love Libby.
Food for thought, people.
I love going on with that Whisper Sync thing, because there are some places where you can buy, it's basically like buying a bundle. If you buy the paperback version, you can add on the Kindle version or the hardback version and the Audible or Whisper Sync for it for less than it would cost for you to buy like just the Audible itself. Because Audible books, sometimes those are running like $30 a pop.
Never buy them until the sales. Like right now, there's a huge like 99-cent for like $30 Audible books. Right now, there's a huge sale. Yeah, so you use your credits when there's not a sale, and then you don't buy a book unless they're on sale. But the sales are huge. They only do them like 2 or 3 times a year. But it's about to be Amazon Prime Day, so they started.
Yeah, I don't understand why books used to be like $20 brand new.
Yeah.
Right. Brand new.
And that was like Stephen King and Rice prices. Yeah.
Exactly. So why is it now $30 for an audiobook? I'm like, I know you got to pay the voice actor, but like
more work goes into the audiobook.
You think so? Yeah, probably. Yeah. You'd probably. You got to do engineering and all that stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
For a perfect audio recording, you have to have the studio set up. And then like I've seen people who, like Neil Gaiman, I believe, was one of them, who is like, I had no idea. When you sit down, like if your stomach gurgles at some point, the mic's going to pick that up. So you have to re-record the entire section.
All right. So, you went on this, Raz. How about with video games? Why do video games cost more if they're digital?
Video games probably have the most amount of people working on them than even movies do.
Oh, I understand that part, but like, say like you're buying the digital version of the same game where you don't have to get the book, the hard copy and everything like that, but it's the exact same price.
That is literally the only reason that is a thing, period, is because when they were starting to go all digital with like PlayStation 3, primarily PlayStation 3, like those console technologies, they started realizing that all the secondhand stores were getting screwed bad because people are like, well, I don't want physical copies anymore. So there was this big series of talks like with GameStop, all these the bigger used stores. And a lot of these used stores are all gone now. Like they estimate like 80% of every used video game store is just gone now. or it's now
Kind of
collectibles
went
and
away
that.
with like VHS and or
Yeah.
the DVD stores and stuff.
So in order for a company to make a good amount of money, they sell what they sell, but they still allow, the disc prices to drop in price. Or you'll notice that Walmart will get a brand new disc in and it'll be like $10 cheaper than the digital version. It's their way to also encourage the other markets they have their games in, because they get kickbacks from, all the stores. Like if when Walmart carries it brand new, they pay a price. Well, all the deals that they have in place to constantly advertise in all their stores, they're basically taking a loss in profit in exchange for all the advertising.
All right, now you have to explain cash checkout. No, I'm just kidding.
That I can't help you with.
That one annoys me. I've
Baffles
actually decided, because Walmart is doing it more and more, and I'm okay with doing my own stuff, but I'm not then showing my receipt to the guy at the door. I'm like, hold on, you trusted me to do my own checkout, but now you don't trust me that I didn't steal a bunch of stuff.
There's reasons for that too. It's
really
I
easy
understand.
to steal
from those systems.
It's
how they make it. Yeah,
it's super easy. Not that I would know, but it is.
Yeah. No, seriously, I've seen it.
I was thinking about that today. I have a theory on how things might go in the future with stores like Walmart and Target like that, because all the brazen shoplifting that's been going on.
Mm-hmm.
What if they reverted back to just doing pickup? What if they shut down people going into stores and you just place your order online?
Well, that was the whole thought with some of these like Apple stores. But not that you go to pick up, but you have to use your little thing to get it out of the, like, it's almost like a just soda machine. What do you call those?
You know about the Dasher?
Machine?
Yeah, vending machine.
You know about like the DoorDasher and Uber stores, right?
Yeah.
They're basically, if you're dashing or you're Ubering and someone will order something, instead of you going into an actual grocery store or a store, there's a Kroger's participates in this. There'll be a giant chunk of Kroger's that no human being, unless you work there, is allowed to enter. It's just all shop bagged, and you get there, you check in, and if you're the dasher, they just hand you the bag and there you go. They're converting old like mini marts and stuff, like little tiny mom and pop mini mart buildings, into these dasher shops.
Telling you, old people like me and older are gonna go crazy over this because, like,
it's big.
I found a Starbucks that didn't allow you in. You could only go through the drive-through and stuff.
Yep.
And I was just like standing at the door. I'm like, why? I'm right here. Let me in.
There's a counter.
That happened with the McDonald's like a couple months back, and we were coming down the highway. I was doing DoorDash with Michelle, and we get this thing popped up, and it's for McDonald's. It's right there off the highway. We're almost at the exit, and they're wanting to pay us like $11 or $12 or something stupid for like, I think it was like a 16th of a mile, and we're like, what the fuck? We look at it, and it's from the McDonald's to the hotel next door, and we're like, that's $11 to get off the highway for less than 5 minutes. Yeah, we're doing that. So we get off, we go through the drive-thru, pick it up, no line, bring him out to the hotel. The guy's even waiting outside, so we don't even have to get out of the car. And he's like, I bet you think I'm really stupid, and I'm so sorry. We're like, what happened? And he was like, well, it wasn't supposed to be closed. I just got in and he got a ride to the hotel from the airport, and they would not let him walk up and order because he was in the car, and they refused to open the inside. So it's so many places are doing that.
Oh, well, it's even now you go in and you can only use the machines to order at McDonald's and stuff.
But Walmart got screwed because of the couponer scandal that happened a couple years ago, where there was this code where you could go in, and if they scanned it at the register, you'd get $25 off your order. Well, this went out into the big scam world, and people figured out how to copy this code so it would work every time. They were going into stores and buying gift cards and buying like $50, $25 gift cards at a time and just scan. But they all came up in the system as legitimate because, as we all know, there's a lot of weird things in Walmart's system. You can go sometimes get a PlayStation 4. There was a big thing where you can go there and get it for like $40, and they had to honor it. Well, that's what this trap was, and it was all scamming until they figured it out. And then all these people got arrested all over the United States. And after that, they really started pushing fewer registers because none of the machines will take anything like that unless they're overridden by an employee.
But
so that's the only thing I can figure for Walmart.
All of the impulse buy type stuff is going to be
it's all there.
Losing out huge.
No, it's all there because in this giant area, when you go to Walmart, all these self-checkouts, it's like this giant rectangle, and all the impulse buy shit is packed right in there with you, and all the little pay yourself things. And now they've got that as seen on
don't know how
TV
to work.
section they used to have. There's
I
another
remember
giant
that.
chunk
I
next
like
to
that.
that's got all your lighters and all your shit. It's crazy,
As
man.
seen on TV. Let me tell you, that Flex Seal stuff is amazing.
Jimmy May's here.
I don't do the self checkouts because like every time I've tried to, there's been like everybody around me is screaming curse words at them, and like I've seen people, like one lady busted a bottle of liquor and she was just like freaking out on the employee about getting her liquor, and they were trying to clean it up, but it was like the entire self-checkout area was covered in Jack Daniels. And
Oh shit.
welcome to Nebraska, everybody.
Mm.
Actually, we were not like that, but
I was gonna say, if anybody had the bottle, like trying to stab someone with it, I'd say welcome to Ohio. But
yeah, I just don't like that. And Uber Eats, and it's not the driver's fault, I know, but with McDonald's, I have to like order from a McDonald's that's like 3 away from me to get them to actually deliver my order, because one of the ones close to me, they seal the bags with stickers so that the drivers can't really, they can kind of peek through and make sure there's a number of things in there. But they give me, I order iced coffees and they give me water. Like they'll fill up the right amount of containers, but they fill it all up with ice water and send that out with the driver. And the driver is like, okay, there's 3 beverages in there. All right.
we can't actually see the beverages, so we have no idea.
But I have no idea why they feel the need to send me water, because I have to get it then fixed every time by Uber Eats. And
if you do
you're
that
going to go to the trouble of
times,
doing it, why wouldn't you just make the item?
and if you complain too many times to Uber Eats or to Dasher, even if you're right and you have pictures, they will stop believing you and stop giving your money back. Like the system is dumb. Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah,
See,
that's why I just started
always have
ordering.
the problem where they deliver my food next door. I've actually gone and waited next door for my food.
I'm just gonna cut this off in the chase.
There have actually been several times where like a delivery driver drops food off at our place, and it's like, who the fuck is this for? We didn't order anything.
Oh yeah, and you get to keep it because they can't come and pick it up.
Yep,
I've had that exact thing. I'm like, dude, this is definitely not food for me. And they're like, well, I can't come back for it. I'm like, okay, cool. Sometimes you luck out.
Yep.
Hopefully it's good food.
The best time is when you pick up this giant order that's like steaks and burgers for like 10 to 12 people. You pick it up, you wait for like an hour, you get paid for the whole time. If you're on the by the hour part, you go to deliver it. You get 5 minutes away and the order just canceled. You still get all the money for doing your delivery and you get to keep all the food and go home and eat it. I love it when that happens.
That's a nice night.
Oh, yeah.
You mentioned drinks. Jar Jar, it's your fault. Well, you and Ben.
I don't drink.
No, when you did the Dunkin' run when we were at the convention.
Oh, yes.
I am friggin' hooked on those refreshers.
Really?
Oh, they are so good. Yeah.
What are these now?
What's that? Oh,
what are these?
The
Dunkin' refreshers. Do you have Dunkin' Donuts in Nebraska? Okay.
Yeah, I've just never heard of a refresher. Are they?
Yeah, it's
a coffee or
no? It's new. It's like green tea with like raspberry drink, or they have strawberry. They have mango, but we used to get them at Starbucks, and Starbucks quality has gone downhill like within the last couple months. So the ones at Dunkin' taste better and they're cheaper.
And they're bigger.
Yeah, and they're bigger. Yeah.
I get Sonic iced coffees.
And you can order them in English as
large.
Yeah. And extra
with normal sizes. I stopped going to Starbucks entirely a couple of years because I don't do coffee, but I love hot chocolate. And Starbucks used to make amazing hot chocolate. A couple of years ago, around here at least, they all went to shit, and it just tasted bad. And that's when we switched over to either Dunkin' or sometimes Speedway, because you get the Speedway gas stations that have like the gourmet coffee areas, and their hot chocolate,
the flavor
is
shots and everything. Oh yeah, and they also have the hot chocolates like the caramel macchiato.
Yeah. I just like regular flavored things. That's my thing. Like I'm the Dennis Leary of Mountain Dew and hot chocolate. I just want them to taste like what they're supposed to fucking taste like, and I don't go in for the fancy stuff.
See, my coffee, I like to experiment with different flavors, but it's got to be sweet. Like I always go with like a caramel or coffee cake flavoring, and like
So we used to always get, actually, I need to try them at Dunkin', but our drink of choice was a dirty chai from Starbucks, which is their chai tea.
with
I
a
think,
shot espresso shot.
yeah. So you get
might
that,
like that.
you get that kick of coffee and, the sweetness of the chai. And we've tried probably like 3 or 4 different Starbucks, and they're all the same now. They're very milky. You don't taste any chai.
Dude, I've been saying that about my girlfriend swears by Starbucks, so we go there a lot, and I get a venti caramel macchiato, and I swear half of it's just creamer.
Yeah.
Like it's so much milk or whatever they froth in there.
And let me tell you, it's not even. It can actually be milk, because that used to be the best part of their hot chocolates was the milk that they would add, and that is somehow the ingredient that they changed a couple years ago, at least over here, because it doesn't even taste like actual milk. It's fucking. It looks like milk, but I don't know what it actually is.
I used to get the cartons of the iced coffees in the grocery store, and then recently we go to Trader Joe's a lot, and I started to try. They have concentrated cold brew, so you can pour like this much into your cup, and like I use these, so I fill up to about the line there, and then I always add some chocolate syrup because I'm frou-frou girl. And then top it all off with fat-free milk, and it's really good.
Nice.
It's like, it's better than a lot of the like pre-mixed stuff that I was getting ahead of time, because those, like, to keep it from settling, they add some sort of like a gelatin to it. So if I don't finish a beverage overnight, I stick it in the fridge, and then when you wake up and there's like it's getting gooey, there's something wrong with your drink.
The same ingredient they use for their gelatin packets and stuff to do that is the same one we use in special effects to make blood and gore. Just so you know, it's the same exact gelatin. It's edible, but yeah, it's the same gelatin.
It just looks gross. You can stir it and it gets back in, but I'd just rather.
And that's why we use it in special effects, because it looks fucking weird.
Paid promotion warning, but the only coffee I drink is Deadly Grounds.
Deadly Grounds.
Deadly Grounds, yeah. I'm drinking their decaf witch's brew.
Always brings my neighbors out of the woodwork.
When you want coffee 6 feet under.
Their witch's brew is just magical. It's a chocolate raspberry.
They do have, like, when I do order from them, they have very strong flavors. Like, I have to say, like, you get what you're paying for.
My wife's been talking about wanting to try that like a lot here recently, because her and my daughter, they drink a lot of coffee, iced coffees, regular coffees. They're coffee nuts. So
Nice.
Dunkin' is usually where they actually go these days, but they've been really wanting to try Deadly Grounds here lately.
And we have a Jenny.
Jenny.
Hello, Jenny.
All right.
That was so crazy. Somebody disappeared in your background.
It's like
we can't hear you, Jenny.
There's a time when, how long ago was that on Midweek Geeks when Yo-Yo just summoned a cat from above his keyboard? That was.
I saw that one. Yeah. That was epic.
It's like, cool, here comes a cat. Oh my God.
I thought it was about to be an SNL laser cat skit for a second.
We can't hear you. No.
You may have to try.
Sometimes she has to go out and back in, because StreamYard is like that now and then.
StreamYard.
Have you tried turning it off and on again?
Try it again.
The thing that frustrates me the most with this platform is that I cannot figure out how to have a video actually play something.
But everybody can, but you is the thing. Like everybody's been able to, but you and I can't. We can't figure it out.
We have guests on all the time, and they'll like play a video, but it's not like under the. You do the present, share screen, or present, then share screen, and then they play a video. But they aren't putting up videos. They're sharing their screen as they show something from like a different thing, and the audio comes through. I try it in the same window. I try it in a separate window.
No, yeah, what you need to do is actually I'm having a problem on my computer. I can't do it. But you actually need to give like that browser permission for the audio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's StreamYard. I think they'll pop up instructions on how to do it.
Yeah.
Friggin' the latest Mac OS, they like totally lock down permissions for that. So you gotta like restart and then go into like a BIOS type screen, but it's not BIOS, and I haven't been able to figure it out. It's a pain in the ass.
Once again, I just made that so I'm going to use it a lot.
Let's see if we can hear Jenny yet. So I'm not sure if.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
We can hear you now.
Okay. Hi.
Hello.
Howdy ho.
Well, now that the gang's all here, I think it's time to do some more story time.
Dun dun dun. Oh wait, hold on.
Dun, 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 dun. Thank you.
Sorry, new soundboard, but I'm happy because that one, and
nice.
then Jeremy's favorite dance music is also on the new soundboard.
Oh, yeah.
My favorite.
Yeah, it's the groovy stuff, man.
What's the soundboard you have?
It is a knockoff no-name brand actually,
Nice.
but it's more of the external sound card than it is the soundboard.
Okay.
But this one actually does phantom power, and we got it because we started this Mats and Monsters show about wrestling and cryptids. Me and my son did, and we wanted to have a better room mic, but to do the good room mic, we needed the phantom power. So we just went on Amazon. I think we only paid like $50-$60. But the board I had before, the sound card board was pretty good, but this one sounds so much nicer. So much nicer. But
Nice.
eventually, I want a Sennheiser eventually.
Oh, okay.
But I got the Rockville mic, the really nice Rockville mic. Man, this mic is like $200, but they had it on sale for Black Friday, 50% off. And then it was an open box. And I found out basically someone in the warehouse accidentally opened it and put it back on the shelf. So they knocked it down by another 50%. And then Amazon was doing something, and the whole thing was like $17 for the microphone and the original soundboard I had. I'm like, this should have been like $300, man. What the hell?
That's awesome.
You never say no.
Yeah.
You don't say no to $17, man. Like,
I had a mixer set up and I actually swapped it out because it was picking up a local radio station. It was so annoying. But I ended up getting the Elgato Wave XLR for it's just an XLR input.
yeah.
So, but again, the latest Mac OS isn't fully compatible with it.
Yeah.
Like it works, but like the dial doesn't work now. So, yeah, it's very weird. It's
My roommate actually does Apple customer service and tech stuff from home. It's like I hear like a million calls a day about all kinds of stuff like that.
I actually have a odd issue going on. I have a Mac Studio, and if I'm copying files from one external drive to another, or if I'm copying files from one external drive and like accessing another, randomly the computer will restart.
What?
Yeah. I've checked forums and they said, I should send it back to Apple. I went on to Apple support, spent like 2 hours on support. They had me check all this real basic shit. And at the point it was like, they really couldn't help me. They said, oh, you got to bring it into an Apple store. So
Yeah.
that's going to be the next step.
That's one thing I love about Dell is that besides it being my name, I get the it's not called a warranty, but I got the 5-year coverage on it, and they come to your house and fix things for you.
Oh, nice.
So like I had the thing that sucks though is like I had one key pop off of my keyboard and they had to replace the entire keyboard on the laptop. So this poor guy comes in, and I have to do it at my mom's house now because the serviceman in our area is allergic to cats. And I had 2 at the time, and they were both trying to help, and I can't lock them away in a room because then they just yowl and yowl. And so this guy had to stay there, and it takes a little while to change a keyboard. And he was just like swollen, and I felt so bad for the man. So the next issue I had him come over to my mom's, but yeah, I have some weird thing going on with my internet something or other. It keeps resetting itself. or I have to keep resetting the internet connection for it, no matter either the Wi-Fi or anything. Everything else is running fine, but it'll suddenly just be like, oh, got to run the troubleshooter and it'll fix itself, but I have to keep doing it, and it's
Over and over.
nuts. Yeah, it's been okay.
I used to be a hardcore Windows guy, but then I got a job working IT, and then when you work IT, you don't really want to work on computers when you get home. So that's when I switched to Mac, because Macs just they're you really don't need to do anything for them. They just work. So for the most part,
one of the people who has published me has he sent me the system that I'm using right now. It's a Focusrite Scarlett Studio, and he keeps threatening to. Yeah, it especially just like, here, ta-da!
Yeah,
have a condenser mic. Have this. I got a new system. You can have it. But he keeps threatening to send me Mac products. Like, I'm gonna buy you an iPad, and I'm like, I don't want an iPad. I have a Kindle. I'm good. But you can do this and this and this. I'm like, if I want to do this, I have a laptop. If I want to do this, I have a phone. But and he's like, but they all hook together. I'm like, so do mine. And he's like, I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna buy you something, and then you're gonna have to use it out of guilt. And I'm like, no.
Once you get into the Apple ecosystem, though, it is like a drug. Steve McMahon was at the convention with us on Sunday, and he has an iPad Pro, and he was showing me he was doing like video editing on it. I was so jelly, but the pros are a bit expensive, but it's it's just like a computer. You can do everything on it.
I will never be able to do
computer.
That. Yeah, I will never be able to do that. When I went to broadcasting school to learn audio and video editing, this was analog. This was like right when analog was slowly starting to stop and a little bit of digital was coming in. So we had to cut all the TV promos, everything, all in analog first.
Oh, wow.
And then transfer it all to digital, and then redo it for different networks that were purely digital now, all in digital. So I'm used to having to sit at a station. And I just got my big L-shaped desk down here a week or two ago. I'm all excited about it with my double monitors finally, and I feel like I'm in an editing like base station again. So I cannot imagine just going to a tablet and trying to do it. It just wouldn't feel right.
Yeah, I can't. I got my Kindle, and the first thing that I wanted to do, I was like, I'm never going to buy a Kindle, and now I can't live without my Kindle because I buy all my books, and then instead of spending a lot on books now, I'll buy Kindle ones, and then the books that I really like, for example, Steve Van Samson stuff, whatever, I get the autographed versions and everything. I get them out. I take pictures of them. I give them a hug, and then I bubble wrap them and stick them up in my closet away from everything and get the Kindle version and read it there, or the Audible version or whatever. But
there's something
I wanted to just use it with reaction gifs. I just wanted to load my whole Kindle with that and then just take it out in public. And whenever anybody did anything, have slow clap. Or llama turning its head, judgy kind of stuff like that.
There's something I learned a few months back about books that I wanted to ask you guys' opinion on. It's a different group of people than the last time I talked about this. There are signs going up in libraries now, actual signs you can find in a lot of libraries across the United States that say do not sniff the books. There is a big movement of so many people missing physical books that people are literally just going into libraries and bookstores, walking around, picking up books and just smelling them and putting them back on the shelf and then leaving.
It's one of my favorite smells,
but it's such a thing now that there are groups of people that they meet online and they plan to meet at local libraries and bookstores just to walk in, smell as many books as they can before they get kicked out, and then they leave. But that's all they do. They just go in and they sniff books and get kicked out. That's it.
That has not happened here in Newton yet, but we at least wait till we get home to sniff our books.
Yeah, exactly. Have some self-respect. Sniff your books at home in the privacy. Yeah.
Check them out,
private,
And the things my kid can do on her iPad, her CapCut videos, she makes up little stories, and she can, I didn't know you could do half that stuff with CapCut until she showed me. So I can understand the rendering and everything you can do digitally with And the word left my brain. With an iPad.
Yeah.
The editing. That's it.
Yeah. I still remember when we had to do actual cards where we had to draw the whole scene out first and the cards, and then you filmed it and then you edited it, and it had to follow like the artist renderings, like the shots and everything. It was a pain in the ass. Storyboarding kind of sucks for film and TV. That's all digital now too, and I'm seeing those all on iPads now.
Now that we've had our excellent nerd hangout, talk about books, fix our computers and everything chat, I did just remember that this is our storytelling show.
It is our storytelling show, yes.
And we finally kidnapped Leo and got him on the show. So I have some visual aids for us for this upcoming story. Yeah.
Well, I got something. I haven't tried it yet.
Here we go.
Thank you.
So there's a lot of stories for those of you who follow the Dorkening that are hinted at or might have been mentioned, but you might have missed them. And tonight we are going to capture at least the snake story. So I even have pictures for this. So we're going to pull up Leo here, and we get to hear all about the snakes. And warning for those of you who might be slightly sensitive to such things, many animals were hurt involved in the production of this story. But
Peter, we're sorry.
There's a good reason behind it. So yeah.
Leo's the kind of exterminator I like. Gets rid of the problem. Like, go on.
Where should I start this, Jar Jar?
I would say, well, you should tell about the farmhouse a little bit.
Okay.
I'm gonna help you out with a little show real quick of this is the kind of snakes we're talking about, people.
And that's how they hang.
Yep. I grew up on a small family farm, about 3 acres, and it was sort of like a family compound because my grandparents had like the house above, and then they sold that, and they owned the land like all around. So like growing up, it was like my grandmother and grandfather lived down the road, and my brother had a house, and it was a long dirt road, it was a private road. So like we didn't get any trick-or-treaters because they were always like too scared to go down the road because it was kind of freaky.
Leo doesn't like sharing his candy anyway.
No, yeah. Actually, there was a pretty funny story. Totally off topic, but talking about the farmhouse. So my mother had this statue of this native warrior in front of the house. It was really cool, but somebody knocked its head off. And like I essentially lived in the woods. It was either playing video games or roaming around in the woods. And I found this this cow skull. And when you're a young kid, you bring it to school, you scare all the other kids with it. But I ended up putting it on the native warrior. So it was like this native warrior with like a cow skull. And my dad like used to really enjoy talking to Jehovah's Witness when they would come by. But one day I see them drive up, and they see the native with the cow skull. They just back up, drive away, never saw him again. But it was great. We had cows and chickens, and my dad used to butcher turkeys, and but yeah, it was just a small family farm. Fast forward many years, I move out, and had some had a very difficult part of my life, and like I won't go fully into it, but essentially I was living in Florida for a little bit, and that's when my first wife passed away, and I decided to come back home. And I was essentially homeless for a little bit, so I stayed in the old family farm. And while I was there, one day I started hearing a noise in the background or in the back room, and like a crashing. And I go into the back room and I see these two large black snakes mating. And my mother had a bunch of like collectibles back there in glass. Yeah, they were thrashing and destroying all. They were destroying everything. So yeah, it was. I realized we had a snake issue. And there was one day where I kept on hearing noise under the washing machine, and I see the snake tail go under, and I move the washing machine, and there's a big hole in the floor. And so the snake was like halfway in. And then I look, there's another snake by the boiler in front of me. And then I hear a movement above me. And I look up, there was a snake in the rafters above me. So I was like surrounded by snakes. Turned out the house was infested with snakes. So I had to try to dispatch of them. And that's where the, trying to trying to figure out the best way to do so. So I found my dad's axe, and I started using an axe to dispatch of the snakes. The one problem is during the summer there it's hotter, so they move faster. So if you go back to the first snake you shown, so this one was moving really fast and it was crawling up the wall. So I had to try to use one axe to pull it off the wall and the other axe to try to dispatch it. He got back up into the rafters, and that's where I kind of dispatched him there. But yeah, I was killing about a dozen snakes this summer. There was one time where there was one crawling up the house. I pulled it off and dispatched of it, and we had somebody that was going to work on the siding of the house, and I didn't tell him about the snake I killed. And by the way, these are all rather large snakes. All of them are about 6 feet in length. Yeah, they were rather large snakes.
These are black rat snakes, right?
Yep. So I dispatched of one, left it where it was, and apparently the guy working on the siding was on the ladder when he saw it and fell off. Kind of scared the crap out of him. There was something else with the snakes too. Actually, growing up, my mother tells a story of we had an infestation of copperheads. Not in the house, but my dad found a nest in the field. And my mother tells a story where my dad took a can of gas, it might have been 2 cans of gas, poured it into the snake nest and lit it on fire. And I was told that snakes were coming out like writhing on fire. Just coming out of the ground on fire just was insane.
And for a tasty treat.
Yeah. But since then, we haven't had, copperheads, the occasional copperhead you'd find, but it's all been,
they probably tell stories about that house.
Oh yeah, they do. Just been black rat snakes and racers. Racers though are friggin' scary. I remember I had a little go-kart and running over one, and just seeing it thrashing in the grass behind me, and then racers will chase you. It's you don't mess with them.
Do they taste like chicken?
I've never eaten one. I've only killed them. But that's the running story is, I'm the snake hunter with double axes. So,
double wielding.
Yeah.
Instead of Edward Scissorhands, it's Leo Axe Hands. We need a t-shirt.
That's the day when I heard this story, I knew Leo was a real man. I was like, oh, Jesus.
I'm going to tell you, I
Leo.
used to do reptile rescue for a good chunk of my life, and inside I am crying. But on the outside, unfortunately, when it comes to black rat snakes, they're one of the most aggressive snakes for being non-poisonous. They are extremely aggressive. They will fuck you up.
Oh, yeah.
And when they get that big of a nest, that big of an infestation, that is literally the only way to handle it, because you can't even really send enough reptile rescue people in without getting injured.
Yeah.
So a big infestation, that's unfortunately, and setting the snakes on fire, that, the copperheads, unfortunately, that is also something that they tell you to do, especially on farms, because otherwise you're going to get overran like that.
Yeah. Well, and that's the problem is the farmhouse, we still own it. It's nobody's living in it, so it's abandoned right now. It's my brother still lives, the next house down. But we know the snakes are there. I tried sealing everything up. I don't know how they're getting out into the house. The only thing I can think of, there must be like some massive nest underneath the house. The house above was my grandparents' old farmhouse, and the guy that owns it now was renting it to somebody. And I was talking to the guy when I was living there. He was trying to replace the boiler, and he said he couldn't replace the boiler in the basement because there was too many snakes. It was just, I could just imagine the amount of snakes that were in the basement. So I'm just thinking like the whole hill is like one big snake nest.
Yeah, I grew up on an acreage too, and there was a time I was running out to see the pony that we had, and we had different areas that we'd let her graze in, and one of them it was kind of it would be considered an orchard if you consider mulberry trees to actually be something that you eat. Some people do, some people don't. But we had this huge mulberry orchard there, and we had plum trees before you got there, before you got to the changing part, and I'd just gotten past the plum trees in the grass going to the orchard, and I stepped in a pile of, when they get the mating pile thing going on, and there were at least 20, 30 snakes in this pile. They were smaller though, mostly like garters and some green snakes, which are really unusual in our area. But I didn't realize that my stepdad was terrified of them. So I had gone and just grabbed a cooler, a big old bucket thing, and scooped them all up. And I was like, hey, check out what I found. He was just like, get the fuck away from me. Oh my God, go dump those things down the hill somewhere. Why did you get them? Where did they all come from? Were they in the same place? And I'm just like, yeah. Oh my God, I got to go inside. He was just like booking it. I'm like,
oh yeah,
I got some snakes.
We got the gardener snakes, and grass snake, and the grass snakes. They're all just called garden snakes in Ohio, right? We just call them garden snakes. That's where you find them. And then we get those little baby frogs that never get any bigger. They're just always that size. And there's always wars between the two different types of snakes and the frogs. So they'll all eat each other. It's weird. So we would just go and collect all these snakes and all these frogs and have different 5-gallon buckets and just walk through the neighborhoods and selling pets to kids. This is what we did as a teenager. You just catch the animals and go sell them to kids in the neighborhood.
I raised snakes. I'm going to pop up because this is a fun story. Okay, so I used to raise corn snakes and as pets. And I had one when I was living with an ex way back in the day. And it had escaped. And it had been gone for like 2 months. So we assumed that it had just gone. And it was an albino corn snake. And I only had one at the time. So we just like stuck its aquarium back in the back of the closet and everything. And my SO at the time he was going to school, college, and he would always leave his clothes laying out ready to go for the morning at the end of the bed. And he did not wear boxers or briefs. He was always a command go sort of guy. So there's one morning where he's getting out of bed and starts getting dressed, and the snake had apparently never left the apartment and had crawled into his pants that night while they were folded up at the end of the bed. And I wake up to this grown man screaming as he's trying to pull his pants on, and there is a snake trying to strike out at him as everything's swinging around and on display, and he's trying to like get the pants off now, and the snake is going, and he finally got them off and went screaming from the room. I don't know why all the men that I know scream at snakes and run away, but I got to capture the snake and I just caught it in a backpack and let it calm down for a little bit before pulling itself back out. But that was so much fun, especially after we broke up. It's become quite a fond memory of mine. Oops.
Love me some snakes, man.
I kind of figured a lot of the snakes, like my dad was always using like heavy equipment around the farm, you know, and he was always working on stuff. So I assumed like that scared the snakes away. And then like after he passed, you know, my mom, you know, she wasn't using the equipment, you know, she was just, you know, living there. So I'm assuming just the quietness of everything, you know, allowed them to, you know, come in. And also my niece rented the place for a while and she had horses. Somebody said that like snakes are attracted to horse manure.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, that could have been an issue too.
Horse shit.
So, yeah.
I have been bitten so many times that that's what you were joking, and I was saying like I would really like to actually check out your snake house, but I have an ongoing dream that I have forgotten to feed my snakes, and so they'll be biting me, and I'll like be running around, and there are just snakes flying through the air at me and just attaching on, and it's all because I forgot to feed my pet snakes. That like all of the snakes of the world have united to come and try to attack me because I neglected my other snakes, and it hurts in my dreams. I'm just like,
I've got scars in some places in my arm for snakes, but the thing is, like when you go in for reptile rescue, when you first encounter the snakes, especially if they're temperamental or they're angry snakes, my job was to go and get these snakes and then rehab them at home for local museums or their petting animal things, and for like the local Cincinnati Zoo. So I would have to go in with my handler's gloves, the real thick padded gloves, and you let them strike you basically until they're tired out, and then you put them in their pillowcase. It's the best thing to transport them in backpacks, pillowcases, straight up. They feel very comfortable, and insulated foam coolers as well. So you get them, you let them bite, choose as much as you want. But then over the course of handling them and rehabbing them, at some point, they need to feel your skin. They need contact so they can start getting used to being handled again. And there's always that tricky first couple weeks to a month. One snake, 3 months, and it was a black rat snake, Lucifer. That one got the shit out of me, man. It's just got to start feeling skin so they can be rehabbed and used for education. So you literally know that they're going to bite you. They're going to get you. It's going to happen. They're going to go in deep. Just let them do it. And this started before my nerve damage. So then after the nerve damage, I just couldn't feel them bite me. I didn't give a shit anymore. But before then, man, but you know it. And you either become afraid of snakes, like terrified, never want to be near another one the first time it happens, or you're like, okay, I'm helping this animal rehabilitate it, which is also going to go and help a lot of children. And once you get that mindset after the first couple times it happens, you're just like, oh, got bit by another one of my snakes today. It's weird how that transitions, but it's a whole mindset that you have to be like thrust into and like hold on to. But it is still terrifying. It would still, every time I would watch it happen to myself, you're still like, I get bit by a snake. Fuck, that was weird, man. But then when it's over, you're just like, whatever, it's normal. But in that moment,
I can honestly say, gentlemen like you, I am very appreciative of, because the reptile zoo would bring rescues and show the children and explain to the children. And we got to be part of the local shows, and it was awesome. My kids were less afraid because they understood.
Yep.
As you were saying, Del?
Oh, nope. I'm good. I completely forgot what I was going to say.
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's all good. It must not have been that important.
Or maybe it was the secret to the universe, and now you fucked it up, Jenny.
And now it's gone forever.
Good job.
Okay, it has something to do with 42. That's all I know.
42.
I thought it was 21.
How many roads must a man walk?
Yes, that is the question.
Oh, no, I know what it was. I was looking at the time, and I want to make sure that we get more Leo stories out before we did get the story of the snakes. But is everybody ready? This is one of my favorite ones for the Yakuza.
Oh no!
Yeah, I want to hear this one too. Yeah.
All right.
Leo
Leo.
are some crazy people.
Oh yeah.
He looks all Jimmy Olsen behind the microphone there, but man, this guy is something else.
For real. We should call him Babyface Capone.
I get
Just
like
fun.
Jimmy Olsen meets Alan Tudyk. That's where I'm getting.
Oh, there you go.
That rocks. That's perfect.
And that's the
Nice.
best last name in the world, by the way. Tudyk.
Yeah,
Can't go wrong with that.
because 3 just doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
Well, if he's 2, he must be Klingon.
This is true.
Yeah, we learned that in what was that? Was that Star Trek? It was either Discovery or it was one of the new series. We found out that Klingons have. Well, anyway, we'll move on.
Organs.
They have Alan Tudyk.
Yep, exactly. Okay. So, growing up, we growing up poor, I wanted, toys. When you're a kid, you want toys. So, I got to the point where I wanted to buy my own. So, I wanted to find a job, and my brother-in-law, Charlie, was working installing stereos, and right next to it was a video game store. And I called that video game store during the summer so many times asking for a job. I was underage. I just kept on bugging them. I wanted to get a job to, something with, some sort of electronics, because, I was a dorky kid. But I annoyed them enough where they hired me. And it was a video game store that he did imports. So he sold, this was before like Funko Land and all that. It had to be, I would say probably around 88, 88, 80, yeah, probably around 88. So anyway, he hires me. I start working there, and I'd have to say not too long after, he's raided by the FBI. He was selling a Nintendo cartridge that was like a 301. So it was an import, and it had like 300 Nintendo games on it. So yeah, it got raided by the FBI for all those. I find out that he was raided by the FBI prior because he would go to concerts with a tape recorder and record the concerts and then sell those tapes. So this is the second time he was raided. So I worked there for a little while, and then left, went to go work for Software Etc., which computer type store. And I went on with my life, and I heard that he was raided again. He became a wholesaler, and apparently he was. This is right when CDs came out, and he was copying like 3DO games, but he would have them printed. So he'd copy them and then like had it printed, so it looked just like the exact, package. And he'd even have like boxes made and whatnot. And so yeah, that he got raided by the FBI selling those. I don't know if he served any jail. I just heard that he was raided again by the FBI. So life goes on. I'm working actually for another sign company at that time, and I get a call out of the blue. Will you accept a call from such and such? Jail. Well, not jail, but I forgot the exact wording. But anyway, he was in jail. And he asked me if I was willing to go run his store for 6 to 8 months. I think about it, and I decided to give it a shot. He was going to pay me more than the sign company, and basically just keep the business going. He had a very big eBay business going, and he was also selling wholesale to stores like GameStop and Electronics Boutique. So it was, contacting the companies overseas that were making the parts, like the Game Boy lights and whatnot. And he sold Pokemon products. So I learned that he went to jail for selling pirated Pokemon products. and turned out he turned in his supplier to get a lesser sentence. So he comes back, and shortly after he comes back, he asks if he can store his products in my dad's garage. We had a huge garage, 2 stories with a lift. Me and my dad built it over a summer. But anyway, yeah, he asked to store it there. He had several warehouses. This was just like, probably about 3/4 of just one warehouse. So we store everything there. And he's trying to get into Canada. And turns out Canada won't let him move there because he's been to jail and had so many legal issues. Turns out he's trying to move there because when he turned in his supplier, turns out his supplier was connected to the Yakuza. And apparently they were trying to find him. So he was on the run for the Yakuza, and that's my connection.
So just hiding product from the Yakuza.
No big
Yeah.
deal.
Garage.
But I mean,
Whatever.
selling pirated Pokemon products, and that supplier is part of the Yakuza. Like, what the hell, Yeah, it was crazy stuff too. I matter of fact, I gave it to Goodwill. I still had like some 2-foot Pikachu, like stuffed Pikachu that, but yeah, it was pretty crazy stuff.
Damn, man.
Okay. I just see the Yakuza going into Goodwill. That is ours. Give it.
I'm telling you, Leo
Where
was
did you get
such an unassuming kind of character. When I first met him, I was just like, oh man, Leo's like this cool, just like really clean cut guy. Then I find out Leo runs with the mob, hangs with like kills snakes on weekends. I'm just like, okay, Leo.
Let me get my snake killing gear.
Gotta make him an NPC in the D&D campaign
Yeah.
that we're gonna be running. This guy who just shows up every now and then killing some snakes along the
Need
way.
help with
runs
IT
away.
or snakes? I'm like, what?
Yakuza got you down.
I'll run them bandits out of town. I'm so happy you finally came over.
Yes, definitely happy to finally hear your stories.
Well, thank you. It was a fun place to work at. The guy was pretty cool. I got to borrow as many video games as I wanted. It's when you're a kid working for a video game store, that's like the life.
Yep.
There was one time where Tetris by Tengen. So obviously, some people know there was a rights issue with Tetris. So Nintendo was coming out with their Tetris. The company Tengen decided to make their own version of Tetris. And I remember we had it on the shelf. And all of a sudden, he tells me we need to pull every copy, from the shelves. And turned out they were being recalled. Obviously, he didn't send them back. He I had one for the longest time, still sealed. I think I sold it before like the before the gaming boom. I think I got $100 for it. But he had like cases of them like unopened. It was crazy.
See, surprised you didn't go out to that site and dig up all the ET cartridges just to have stashed away
ET
back
landfill.
somewhere.
I was shocked when I heard that story about ET. I actually liked that video game. It was good.
Dude, I never got out of the pit. I would
Really?
get there and I would like get up and fall and then I just die.
Or
I
you
was
get
like,
out
God
for a
damn it,
second and
ET.
fall in the
Yep.
next pit.
Oh yeah. There was a fan edit of that where they went in and fixed all the code.
Yeah.
You can probably
Oh.
find it as a ROM. Yeah.
Might have to try that sometime
pretty
because I
cool.
never did get to see what happened. I never made it past.
You and
It's
most
like-
people in the world, yeah.
But
I actually need to find an old Masters of the Universe Atari game. That would be kind of
Oh.
cool.
You ever think though
Box.
that like ET's biggest problem is that it was misnamed and the name Pitfall was just already taken? Because I feel like if the ET game had just been named Pitfall, like, and that's the whole point, you just get out of a pitfall to another one, that game might have made more money.
Yeah. Hey, as long as you got Jack Black in the commercial, we're good.
Yeah.
I also never. It had two names. One of it, I think, was Ghosts and Goblins, and the other one, but when you're the little guy and you only have your armor,
Yeah.
and then you jump and run around naked, and
Yeah.
and if you get hit once, you're dead.
No.
Yep.
Yeah, it was Ghosts and Goblins, and I think it was also Ghouls and Ghosts.
Yep.
Yeah.
They
I hated that game.
If you remember Nick Arcade, the TV show, they had both of the different cabinets at different points in time, depending on like how early in the show you watched it. Because later on, it started as Ghouls and Ghosts, then went to the other one towards the end of the run of that show, and it was like one of those things they never explained it. But it was clearly the same game.
If you want to play a good version of that game besides the arcade, there's the super graphics. So it was, you had turbo graphics, and then shortly after, released only in Japan, was the super graphics. They only made 5 games for it, and we sold it actually at that store, because he was a import company. But I'd have to say, the best home version of Ghosts and Goblins. Yeah, it's really good, and you can get it as a ROM. So it's you don't need to pay like the thousands of dollars that video games are now.
Feels like it.
I learned a lot from you guys. Like, what is it that was it Pac-Man or Donkey Kong? That I think it was Pac-Man that you said Jumpman was initially.
Mario.
Was it Donkey Mario? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to play the shit out of
Because it was-
Jumpman when I
I
was a little
remember
kid.
Mario Brothers. I don't remember Jumpman, but
Yeah.
You might have been too young, honestly,
I
because
had-
it was
Oh,
like
I
this is
wasn't.
like with the fold-out
I
keyboard
had all
compact
sorts
that I was
of
playing on.
video games. Let me tell you, I was never too young.
The coolest level was because you had to collect the little dots and go up ladders, and sometimes the ladders would disappear and things would move around. But there was a level where as soon as you started going, I think you had like a 10-second head start, and then another you would come out, and then another you would come out, and it would follow the exact same route that you'd taken. So you had to clear out everything, because if you ran into a copy of yourself, you lost the round.
Yeah. It was so
And-
confusing and weird, man.
But once you got it down and figured out the exact path to take, it was really cool to see all of everybody following you and jumping over yourself to catch something as you went down a different way. And
Oh yeah. The same job that my dad used to work at, where I met the creator of Ravenloft and like started playing D&D in one of his campaigns. They had another guy that would take, and at that point in time, the only real consoles we had out was just all the different versions of Atari for the most part, not including home computers. And then the Nintendo had been out for like a year. Well, they would take and reprogram every game on every system, computer games, what few consoles we had, and turn them into playable discs for the Commodore 64. So that's where I played that version of Mario Brothers, was actually on the Commodore 64. The first Gremlins game that ever came out for Nintendo, I played that on Commodore 64. Like everything was just Commodore 64. So I didn't even have to own a Nintendo for like the first 3 or 4 years it was out, because we just got everything on the Commodore.
nice. We should do some more storytelling, though.
Yes.
This is a storytelling show. We've been squirreling, but it's so much fun.
We've been getting some stories out of the squirrels.
We have been. They're good stories. I'm gonna put you on the spot one more time, Leo, and then I'll quit doing it, and we'll go and share some other stories. Because this is one that Jeremy, I picked up on your research kind of thing and have started following people. And I don't know how much of a story this is, but the other day Leo mentioned on Reddit.
I think you just called me a stalker.
No, that's what I do, but I'm using it in a better way now.
Oh, I gotcha.
I'm adapting. I follow Leo now on Reddit, and he mentioned that he has been struck in the head 3 times by a backhoe. And I would like to hear exactly how one gets hit in the head.
Okay, so this goes back to growing up on a farm. You know, it can be dangerous. My dad had this backhoe that we named Christine. You know, it's everything he had, he like wheeled and dealed for. So I can't remember what he traded. It might have been one of his tractors to get this backhoe. So it was, you know, something that he had to fix, and you know, it was a construction backhoe. You know, it had the bucket in the front, bucket in the back. You know, something like, it wasn't like a little farm size one. This was actually a construction level, you know, backhoe.
Oh, wow.
But it had the habit of the engine would like rev up and it'd like jerk forward. Even if when you drive it, when you're using it, you put the back legs down, and you lift it up so that, you know, you limit its movement, but it would still like jerk forward. And we used it for everything. A lot of times, like unloading wood, when we were building the garage, moving the cement blocks and everything like that. So there were several times where I'm unloading it, you know, because when you're a kid, you're the grunt. You know, he's on a tractor, and I'm doing all the heavy work. But yeah, it's jerked forward and hit me in the head. I counted 3 times, at least that I can remember. You know, so could be. Yeah. So all of it was just, you know, unloading the truck and not the truck, the bucket, and just being in the wrong place at the right time, you know.
So 3 that you remember.
Yeah,
there were those
3 that
4
I
other
remember.
concussions that completely didn't register at all. What am I doing in bed? Oh, you just sun was out, got hot, fell asleep. Don't worry about it.
Took yourself a nap.
There's a snake out there. Grab an axe.
Yeah. If you're interested, I could also throw in the story about being another issue, not an issue, but another farm accident that happened. I got towed by a bull when I was young. So
of course you did.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I have still the scars on my hand and my arm from it. So when I was young, I'd have to say, I don't know exactly how old I was. I would imagine I was probably around like 6 or 7. But we had cows and we had one bull, and the bull did not like anybody, you know, touching the cows. So when my dad was milking the cows, you know, we had to keep the bull out of the barn. So my dad, you know, asked me to help him one day. And, you know, it's a big deal. My dad's asking me to help him. So I don't want to let him down. He asked me, you know, just hold the lead for the bull. You know, it's just keep it, you know, for the most part, from what I remember, it was docile unless you were near the cows. So just had to keep it, you know, away from the barn. I didn't want to let him down. So I take the rope and I tie it all around my hand so I couldn't let go. And something must have spooked it, and it bolted. And all I remember is just being jolted into the midair, and I blacked out from there. But
How
yeah,
old were you, Leo?
it had to be. I was real young. It had to be.
I think your dad was trying to kill you. How many kids did he have? He was trying to like.
Yeah.
In the herd.
I was the last out of a very large family, so yeah. All in all, Brady Bunch type of family. It was 6 sisters, 4 brothers.
Wow.
Yeah,
you don't see families that big anymore.
Well, it was Brady Bunch. So my mom and dad both had marriages prior. Both of them lost their significant other, but then they, you know, merged their families and then had me. So it was yeah, that's how it was such a large family.
You were the uniter of the clan.
Yeah.
So we get to add accidental matador
Yeah. Yeah.
Olay.
There was one time where I was being chased across the field by a cow, and we had an electric fence, and apparently I ran into the electric fence and flipped while. So I ran into the electric fence, and apparently I flipped into the tub that we used to feed the cows water.
Oh God.
And luckily there wasn't any power going through it, because electric fences aren't on all the time. They're only on certain times. So luckily it wasn't on at the time. Otherwise I would have been barbecue.
Don't whiz on the electric fence.
My neighbor did. Oh my God.
It hurts.
He was a bully, and that was the most glorious sound I ever heard, was him screaming after he pissed on the electric fence.
Me and my cousin dared each other to do it for like 3 full summers, like when I was on the farm. And one summer I was really fucking just ripped stoned. I was like, you know what, man? Fuck you. You're a pussy. I'm going to do it. So I did it. Man, it is every bit as painful as it looked and sounded. Every bit as painful.
I've tased myself. That shit's no fun.
Nope.
See, we just dared ourselves to grab the electric fence,
Oh, yeah.
I think maybe being a girl, I don't know if it's just that I wouldn't say we aren't. I don't want to say you guys were stupid.
Oh,
but
totally were. Yeah, I mean,
we just didn't get into the like.
100%.
We dare each.
Well,
we
my
dare each
history.
other do things, but not like injurious.
Well, see, in my family, it was my brother and sister would dare me to do things, or they would build these contraptions that I would have to be experimented upon. But I did it on purpose, because every time I got hurt, my mom found out about what had happened. They would both have to do my chores and everything for like a month apiece. So every time an incident happened and I got hurt, that's 2 months and nothing I had to do but sit there and do homework if school was in session and just play games and read comics. Like 2 whole months of just freedom and to do what I wanted, and they had to do everything. So I felt like that was a good trade-off.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go for it.
No, I was since actually I should head out fairly shortly. I can throw in an Evel Knievel story.
Okay.
And I apologize to be hogging the camera here.
No, this is your show, man.
So my dad was great. He as soon as I was up and about, he wanted to get me on some sort of like motorized vehicle. So like he built me a go-kart, and it didn't have brakes though. So the only way I could stop was crashing into things.
Once again.
Crash test dummy.
I was a big kid, and some of my friends had motorcycles, again, growing up poor, my dad was a wheeler and dealer, so he was able to trade somebody something for a Honda. I forgot the number, but it was actually a road bike. So like for my first motorcycle, he gave me an actual road bike, and I think I was like 12 at the time. So this thing could haul ass, and I remember, remember the dirt road. I'd drive it up and down the dirt road, and one day I get this bright idea that I've been riding it for a while. I'm comfortable. I know what I'm doing, so I'm gonna floor it down the dirt road. I'm gonna get up on the seat and stand on the seat, and I'm gonna go around the bend. And when I do, I'm gonna jump up, hit the brakes, do a power slide, and land on the seat. That was what was in my head. So I'm flooring it. I'm going down. I go around the bend. I hop up. I go to hit the brake. I hit the front brakes instead.
Oh no!
I did a Superman. I flew, and I remember being down for a bit and just yelling for my brother, and luckily he heard me and came running, and it was my dad had to repair my motorcycle, and I think he got rid of it after that. I think he traded it to somebody. Yeah. So yeah, that was. But then after that, we ended up getting a 3-wheeler, which, if you know, those were highly dangerous and outlawed.
Flippable.
Yep.
Currently illegal.
Oh, yeah, I think they were illegal when we got one. So yeah, it's you know, you might be noticing a trend here that was very, very dangerous growing up. But,
Oh,
yeah.
we've noticed, yeah.
Yeah.
You survived the farm, so.
Oh, I did. We used to go logging, and I remember one time we had to be we had a dump truck, and we would go logging at my uncle's house, and we had I had some friends that were helping us and some cousins. And I remember there wasn't enough in the front, not enough room in the front seat for all of us to sit to bring home the wood. So my dad had a couple of us ride on top of the wood. So you know, it's the 80s. We're going down the highway, sitting on a load of wood, not tied down or anything, in the back of a dump truck. Yeah. I remember I lost my hat on the highway, and I was upset about that.
It's better your hat than your head.
Yeah,
you know.
My kids always ask me, they're like, with all the stories you guys are always telling, like everyone tells us, like our parents, you know, like all the older people in the family, how did you guys survive? Like, what was it like back then? Like, honestly, no one gave a shit about kids unless they needed free labor. Otherwise, we ran wild. We almost killed each other half the time.
Oh, yeah.
And we did anything. Broke into abandoned houses and no one cared. Like,
to be seen and not heard.
Yeah, and it was bad in the 80s, but it got worse in the 90s, like way worse in the early 90s. But then by the end of the 90s, suddenly everyone was actually supposed to care about their kids, so then it all started changing.
Yeah, damn millennials.
Dude, I remember,
Gen
like,
Xers grew up and we had kids and we're like, yeah, let's be nice to our kids.
Yeah, we had no rules except for when the you know the light comes on, you're home. Or if you were in a place that didn't have a light, you just knew what time you had to be home, or you got your ass kicked. Not because they cared that you were home; they just wanted to say, you know, that they knew where their kids were at 8 p.m., like the commercial said.
Exactly. Yeah, and if I was a minute late, I got grounded for like a month. Yeah. Like, what? You didn't care where I was all day, but like a minute late, and I'm like, huh.
Right. So my friend Joey lost his arm, and you're grounding me over a minute. Fuck.
Right. You know, we found dead bodies out there today.
Yeah. This was a real Stand By Me moment, dude. Like, and
hey, it was fun times, though. You know.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
I was like you. We had like 60 acres, and only a couple of it was. We call it up top and then the bottom because there was like a bluff that there was a road kind of cut into, so you could go down there, and just, you know, trees everywhere, some grazing land. And so we like took down the fence between our property and our neighbors and let him graze his cattle down there. But you just run around, and then there was another fence. And then I went to the river, and I'd go hop in, like I'd ride the pony down, lead it over, and go swimming in the river because that's what you do when you're a kid. By yourself without telling anyone, you know, because screw the undercurrent. It's not going to get me. We like would go miles up on the river and then just kind of like let it pull us back down. But nobody cared. It wasn't a big deal. And now it's like, oh yeah, I guess I could have died often. quite often.
Once a week.
Bridge jumping and stuff.
Yeah.
Like jumping off of bridges. People were like, yeah.
Oh. I wasn't brave enough for that.
Outside of a car in the rain, you like hold on to the door in the side of the car, and you're just. Oh man, stupid shit we did. But we didn't have video cameras.
Yeah, if we had GoPros when we were kids, Jesus.
Oh no, we'd have all been arrested. God. Fuck that.
Oh yeah, right? I broke into so many abandoned houses when I was a kid. Oh my God.
When I was a teenager, my stepmom would ground me out of the house.
Yeah, they thought that. Yeah, Yeah, that happened to me a bunch of times.
Like,
oh, you enjoy your
I'm the
books, do
only one
you?
that grounded out of the house. Everybody else would get grounded in the house.
Yep.
But I'm
not allowed to
one.
go to your
You
room.
can't come home, period.
Yep. Oh, man.
Yeah. All of us readers. You can't do that. You're a reader. If I ground you, you're going to sit in your room and you're going to read, or you're going to make things up in your head and enjoy yourself anyway.
Yeah.
You must sit and watch this horrible television show so that you feel encroached upon. Just tonight you have to watch In Living Color. It is your punishment. God damn it. No.
I still like that show.
I do.
I know. I'm the only one.
That's where Jim Carrey came from.
Mm-hmm. That's where Jim Carrey was intentionally casted to play the stupid white guy because it was a social commentary. Yeah, that's why they gave him all the roles they gave.
Yes, I know.
I loved his characters.
He hated them. A weird story about him. He prefers the serious acting, the dramas, the suspenses, and a lot of that he agreed to do so they would allow him to make the more serious movies. But he got screwed a lot in that. a lot. I do have a story ready for you guys, and I've even got my story pipe ready to go because I have to have a story pipe. You know?
Story pipe?
It's the fancy.
Time for the Raz.
Yeah. All right. Hold on. Okay, now I'm ready. So this story is called The Forest Fire, The Cabin, and Midnight Mountain. So this is actually a full story that Dell's never heard before, which is exceedingly rare these days. She's heard bits and pieces. I think I hit the story pipe a little too hard. Damn you, story pipe. Okay, so I want to start off by saying if you've never seen or been inside of an actual forest when it's on fire, it's a lot more terrifying than it sounds. Like a lot of people will be like, oh, like certain things aren't not that bad, or it's not as bad as it seems or sounds. Forest fires are terrifying. We decided to do this little impromptu vacation to this spot in Kentucky we'd never been to before. And we just wanted to get away for just a couple nights and go to a cabin because cabins in the woods are my thing. I love them. And we found this what we thought was this really awesome one. So we decided to leave and get there like hours early before we could check in and just drive back roads and like see cool and weird random stuff. And as all my vacations go, I chose a spot in Kentucky that was also known for Bigfoot sightings and like other cryptid stuff, because if I'm going to go on a vacation somewhere for a while, it's got to have some cryptids and paranormal for me to amuse myself with. So our first stop was the Daniel Boone National Forest. What we did not know is that their dry season had gotten really bad, and there was a fire ban. Like, it was a big deal. We didn't listen to any news or even look at anything. We just drove straight down. And the sun is just coming up. It is gorgeous. You're in the middle of Daniel Boone National Park. You've just gone through the tunnel, and you're just looking around. And the way the road is, it is barely even a 2-lane road. Like, 2 cars cannot even really go side by side in opposite directions. Like, you're just kind of going away, and if someone else is coming the other way, you have to pull in these little weird side things that your car will barely fit on. So you're always feeling like you're just going to crash to your death every 5 seconds. That's kind of terrifying. But as the sun's coming up, like the forest is coming to life, all the colors, like that early morning was gorgeous. We get a little bit farther and we see some fog. That's normal. The fog started getting thicker. And I'm like, man, this fog it's getting really thick. And my wife she's driving and her face just like, she's terrified. I'm like, what's going on? I was like, just fog. She's like, honey, roll down the window. I rolled it down and you can smell it. It's not fog, it's smoke. And it is now so thick, there is nowhere to stop the car, and like you can't turn your car around. And we had an SUV, there was just no way we were turning the car around. So our only way was to just keep going. We figured, okay, it's going to die down soon. If something really bad were happening, we'd have probably heard about it, not realizing that we were not even listening to actual radio on the way down. So there's no way we would have heard about it. And then the white smoke starts slowly turning black. So now we can barely see anything. There's enough of the windshield still kind of clear that you can tell it, like, and it's just a straight shot at this point in time. So there's no like big surprise turns or, anything like that. So she just drops down like 5 miles an hour and starts going. I have nerve damage and I can't feel much, but I started feeling warmth out of nowhere. And I'm like, why can I feel how warm it is? She's like, shit, look to your right. I look to my right, and flames are licking the side of our vehicle. And I didn't even notice it at the moment because the smoke was so thick. So now we are driving through actual fire at this point in time. We finally get out, and like we're only driving through the actual fire part, maybe 60 to 90 seconds, if that. Like it feels like a long time, but it was fairly quick. We make it out of that, back into thick black smoke, but then back to the white smoke, and then I'd say about 22 minutes after the white smoke first started, we finally make it out. Immediately, she slams the gas pedal. We go as fast as we can to get off this section of the road. We get out, go to the other side, and there's barricades. They're not letting anyone go in either side because of this fire. But that barricade didn't go on at the other end until they said probably a couple minutes after we'd already gone through, and there was no time to stop us. So we get out, we park, we're freaking out. They let us to the barricade. Then we parked, and we get out, and the car it was a silver car. And now there's like char marks. The whole outside of the car is just soot, entirely covered in soot. So we had to go and clean the car. And then it's, we're really shaken up about this. Like we're pretty freaked out. We actually to this day have a bunch of the soot from the car in a little bottle that we just have to have in the car. It's like a pill bottle or something like that. We just stuffed it full of soot to always, remember the forest fire by, I guess was the idea at the time. And we get a check into our cabin. Now, this cabin is not what it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be a pretty remote cabin out in the woods. And that's what was in the description. And I thought it was oddly cheap for like $60 a night. That's really cheap for as nice as this cabin was supposed to be. It's supposed to have an in-room hot tub, like a kitchen, all this stuff. And I'm like, why is it cheap? Well, we get there, and this cabin is like very murdery, and it's not even secluded. There is this tiny little pond that's got algae all in it, and one of those paddle boats you can paddle around in that you don't want to get into because it looks like you're just going to die and sink to the bottom if you try and touch it. And there is like 4 or 5 cabins crowded around this tiny little pond, and then like RV and tent camping everywhere around you. And you're like, okay, well, this is weird. Fuck it. We already paid. We're here. So we go into this cabin, and the first cabin has no kitchen. Oh, sorry, this is the wrong one. Let's go to the other one. We go to the other one. That one has no, like the big, jacuzzi tub or whatever. I'm like, what the fuck? So then they take us to a third cabin that's got a little bit of a kitchen, but it's got the jacuzzi. But you get that vibe that something really bad has happened because they're going in. There was a little bit of police tape on the door. The whole room has a very overly clean smell. Like someone probably just died and the cleanup crew came in and disinfected everything kind of smell. And this whole time, there's no one in any of the other cabins. There's not that many people even in the camping park because of the fire warning and how bad the weather was, I guess, apparently. So we just said, fuck, and we stayed there. Every night, exactly at 11:24 p.m. until 1:07 a.m., you would hear footsteps all around the cabin. You would actually hear the front door to the cabin, even if it was locked. It would unlock, open, close, and you'd hear the footsteps walk all the way around the cabin and stop at the bed. And it was my wife's side of the bed. And after the first night, again, we're paranormal enthusiasts, like weird stuff, like we're all cool with it. It's freaky, obviously, I'm not going to say it's not because it totally is, but we were not expecting this level of something strange to be happening. And sure enough, every night, all 3 nights that we were there, the door would open, close, and then all the way to that side of the bed every night. And the whole time we're there, it feels like not just someone is watching you, like you almost expect to look up and see one of those moments in a movie where there's like reporters everywhere, like trying to peek in your window, like that vibe of like many pairs of eyes crowding to just stare at you the whole time. And that feeling wasn't even just in the cabin. That was on the whole property. As soon as you drove onto this property, you just feel like there are like hundreds of people around just staring at you, but there's no one. So it was really super unsettling. And I'm telling you all these things to build up to Midnight Mountain. It's not called Midnight Mountain. There's the big rock bridge over there. a huge natural rock bridge. A lot of people are there go to like mountain climbing, mountain jumping, where they actually jump off the top of the mountain with the little like the base jump parachute and all that. Caving, all kinds of really cool stuff over here. Well, we decided that we wanted to take the very last what you would call it. You get in this little box. It looks like a ski lift, basically, is what it looks like. Because you get in it and it takes you to the top of the mountain, and the little card on the wire above you that's like really weird, and you're pretty sure it's going to break at any minute because it sounds creaky, and you're pretty sure you saw a body down there, but you don't want to admit it to yourself, kind of situations. So we go up to the top. It's the last ride up. I didn't know it was the last ride up until we were already on it, because you're supposed to be able to like also ride it back down. And with my health at the time, it was pretty bad too. I was not going to be able to walk down that mountain. But again, we didn't know until we were already in the cart going to the top. So we get up there and it's beautiful. It's nice. Everything's really cool. But we realized that we're going to have to hike all the way down. Luckily, my wife was smart enough to get a map just in case, because we collect maps when we're on trips. It's kind of one of the things that we do. So we have this map of all these trails. Cool. We at least have maps. There's signs like, if you're an expert, go take this trail. If you're a beginner, take this trail. The map was wrong. And apparently there was also crime scene tape and other places coming down off the mountain. This whole sections were completely sealed off and you couldn't go to them. And according to the map, no problem. That's where the expert path was. Well, something happened with the printing of the maps and everything was mislabeled. And then they had to change even more paths because of the shutdowns. So we ended up on the expert level hiking mountain climbing path with no knowledge of this, where there are these big gaps that you have to like wrap your arms into the rock and grip the rock and like step over, or you're going to fall to your death kind of situations. I had done a lot of adventurous stuff like that when I was young, but never anything quite to this terrifying level. One thing that we always brought with us anywhere if we go night hiking or anything are filming lights. And I've got lights for, obviously for filming outdoors, no sound, because I don't want any sound, rush overs on any mics or anything. But we just use them for hiking because they had barn doors. You could literally like pinpoint where you wanted the light to be. And I built handheld tripods that on the back, I could tape one of those little, it's a battery charger, but for phones that you can, the power banks. I had Velcroed a power bank onto the back of all these tripods and have this guy custom make a cord that would go from that to charge the lights or the cameras. So we thought we were cool. We had these bright ass lights. We did not realize how dark it was going to get on the mountain. Everybody should have been well off the mountain. And we're looking around because no one is legally allowed to be there as it starts getting dark because of how dangerous it is. We're like, oh, we got these lights. No big deal. Because again, we thought we were going to be on the beginner's path coming down. And we turned them on and again, bright as fuck. But the brightness, these things out at home, like in a field, you could see these lights and light up probably at least, I'd say easy 100 feet in front of you. No problem. We're talking maximum of like 5 to 7 feet in front of you because of how thick the woods are and how dark it gets on the mountain. So we are now in the dark on the expert trail. There was legit a moment where I look at my wife and I said, you're going to have to leave me here. Medically, I could not go any farther. And we had just gotten over that big spot where I told you I had to like wrap my hands kind of around this giant section of this mountain and dig my fingers in to be able to climb over. And I almost fell and died in that moment. I barely made it around it. And I was like, leave me, go down and get help. From here on out, there's nothing crazy. It doesn't look like there's anything crazy. Just go and then get help and bring them back here. The other problem is that there's a lot of dangerous wildlife that wants to eat you in Kentucky. And you could hear them. You could hear the howls of a pack. I'm not sure, wolves, coyotes, not sure which it was, but we were being tracked just after that gap. Hardcore tracking, you hear it all around you and just getting closer and closer all the time. So we know we're now likely being hunted. That's another reason why you don't want to be out there, at this time of night. And I know at this point in time, if I just say go on, I make a lot of noise, I'm going to die, but she'll get out. That's what you do. Well, that's what I think to do, sacrifice myself for other people. But she's like, no, you can't. She's like, I hear them too. I know what you're trying to do. We're either both going to die here or we're both going to make it out together. I'm like, okay. We start moving. And then One of the loudest sounds I have ever heard in my life came directly to my left, and a small tree fell over right afterwards. Footsteps. And I'm talking, the rock beneath our feet is shaking from these fucking footsteps. The closer it gets, the sounds of the howling start to back off a little bit, so we start walking. Whatever this giant thing is in the woods, it's following on one side of the woods, and the pack of animals is on the other side of the woods, and we're just like walking through this section on this mountain with that on both sides of us. We do that for another good 35-40 minutes, and during that time we saw snouts come out on the side. Again, coyote, wolf, it was still hard enough to tell even with our lights exactly what it was. They'd start to come off, and as soon as you start to see them darting in from the right side, you just this huge loud sound, and again those rock shaking footsteps would get louder. And then I think 20 minutes and you'd hear this like this deep, just guttural growl, which you could also feel just as much like in the air around you. It was like the whole world was shaking, but just not the ground beneath you, just everything, just the concussive sound of this thing. And then you'd see the muzzles would start to come out of the woods, and they'd dart right back in. They'd get farther away, they'd get brave, and the pack would come back. And this just kept happening. We are now, I think, maybe as this is going on, this whole like 45 minutes, we can see the exit now. We see these giant steps, like all nicely built, like we're in a safe area. But we know that going down there, you leave where any kind of light or anything at all is just done. It's even darker where we have to go to circle around to get out. On the path to get out, at the end of it, there's a light, an actual light. It's bright as shit. You can see anything. So we're like, we got to make it to this light. So we stop. We look at each other. All the sound around us stop. If you've ever heard that you need to get the fuck out of the woods, if suddenly every noise stops, do that. No matter what you got to do to go through, get the fuck out of those woods, because bad things are about to happen to you that cannot be stopped. As soon as that silence fell, we looked at each other. We didn't have to talk about it. We knew. We've both been in the woods plenty of times. We took off. And I'm injured. I'm bleeding in a couple places from my hands and like my knees, a couple different places. And I am pushing myself on. I'm making sure she's in front of me. She is trying to get behind me because she's afraid that I'm going to, again, ditch and just get her to safety. And I'm like, just run. I'm behind you. So she starts running. I start running behind her. 5, at this point in time, again, you can't tell if they're coyotes or wolves because now you're in dark. And even our lights are useless out here. We can barely see each other, and we're next to each other. Well, she's in front of me. I couldn't even see her back with the light. So we just turned the lights off and ran. Like I said, 5 of them come out of the woods at it. And this giant thing, almost twice as tall as I am, and still to this day don't know exactly for sure what it was, came out of the woods from the left, cut between, like pushed me back to get between me and my wife, went past us, grabbed 3 of them, and went into the woods, and the rest of them followed after it. And the sounds of just the feeling of the ground still shaking as we're making it almost to this light, hearing the cries of these coyotes or wolves, these grunts, these slamming, like skull bone smashing sounds, weird, just intense, terrifying shit. We finally get to the light, and we stop under the light because they're not going to come under this light. We want to know what's going on, so we look back, and again, small trees are still falling all around whatever's happening. And the last thing that we saw was 6 other wolves or coyotes went a different direction out to where that big thing had originally come from. And this thing, you just see this giant shadow. It's on 2 legs, has some kind of, humanoid, definitely, just kind of turns its head over. And you can't see its face because of the shadows. And it just, this little nod. And then it turns back to the woods, the direction the wolves or coyotes ran, and just slowly, no running, just trots into the woods. And then suddenly all the normal nighttime wildlife sounds, you could hear them all again. You could hear the crickets again. Like, you could hear everything like it was normal, like nothing had just happened. And we looked at each other. And we just very slowly, to not alert anything, turned our lights off the rest of the way, walked down these stairs, and then we ended up on the wrong side of the parking lot because we came out, and then had to walk a mile out on the actual, like, normal roads and stuff back to our car. Just shaking and fucking terrified. because again, the forest fire, this cabin, this fucking goddamn mountain. And then we make it back to the cabin. Finally, we sit down, and there's a face in the window, and it is exactly 1:02 a.m. 5 more minutes before the sounds usually stop, and I thought it was a person. It looked real. There was no seeing through it. I mean, there was a face just pressed, kind of how a kid makes funny faces at their friends. They just press their face against the glass. It was like that, except for there was not a funny face. You could see scars up and down the face, what looked like fresh blood, and the face was kind of smushed in around the bottoms of the eye sockets, so you could actually see the bottoms across here of the eyeballs. And then it just moved back and just backed off, and it was gone. And we both saw it. We both ran right out of the cabin, ran around the cabin to find out where it was, and then the door just shut and locked itself. And we were outside of the cabin. So we were able to get a window open to crawl back into the cabin to unlock it so we could both now be inside. And we basically, after the experience of the mountain and then the face, we didn't sleep all night. We got up. We left 4 hours before checkout, and we just left. We never take much with us on these little tiny trips, and we just packed the car and we left and drove all the way back home. And that's around when I first met Dell, actually. So all Dell has ever heard about that story was that we drove through a forest fire. But that's everything that we went through on that 3-day trip.
Nice. Did you ever find out if something like why the police tape was there?
Apparently, we found out this well after the fact, like almost a solid year later. It showed up in the Reddit about what had been happening. 3 hikers had gone missing, and they found the bodies of 2 mangled on the rocks down there. So that's why they had to close some of the paths. And in the cabin, apparently that was the cabin that they were staying at before they went missing on that same mountain. That's why the police tape was on the cabin also, because they had to figure out, it was all a crime scene. No bodies were actually found in that cabin, which is at least at that point. But we still never figured out the antiseptic smell and why it was so strong. Unless someone just went and cleaned after they got prints or what, we don't know. But yeah, it was 3 missing hikers. They found the mangled bodies of 2 of them on the trails.
Wow.
And this is a site that's very prone to Bigfoot sightings, but not just Bigfoots, all kinds of weird cryptids that people don't even have names for that are much even larger than Bigfoot is supposed to be. So like we still don't know for sure what the fuck it was, but there are so many Reddits and sites dedicated to this place with firsthand encounters, video footage, like weird shit on this mountain. So yeah, I kind of want to go back to the mountain again, but during the daytime, during the daytime where I can ride the thing up and down and not have to go down the mountain, just to go there, man. Red River Gorge, I'm wanting to say, is what it's called. It's a really famous vacation spot apparently. It's a weird fucking place.
Wow.
Bring all your safety supplies if you're going to go to Red River.
I'll bring Leo axe hands with me.
That'd be funny.
So, Raz, it sounds like you're big into cryptids and paranormal.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
Have you been following all the UFO news?
Yeah, so I actually live, well, not where I live right now, but where I normally live here in Ohio is right up next to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and you can't even know aliens without knowing Wright-Pat, because that's where all the wreckage from Roswell went, and every major discovery about UFOs ever has come out of there. And the little town that gets the most alien sightings in the world, Riverside, Ohio, that's the town I grew up in. So I follow everything alien too because of just growing up like that.
Nice. I'm assuming you saw about the football-sized UFO that they supposedly built a base around.
Yes.
Did you see the Fitbit tracking somebody found today?
I didn't see that yet. Somebody was telling me about it at the haunt today, but I haven't actually had a chance to go look it up. They did say that football-sized one almost looked like a miniature version of the ship from Flight of the Navigator. That's what somebody told me. That's what they thought it kind of looked like.
The what I've been saying is just people trying to figure out where it is. Some people are saying all these different countries because that investigator said it's not in the U.S.
Yeah.
But somebody found this one spot in Antarctica where there's Fitbit tracking, and you see just a circle, and obviously it's a bunch of tracking data around it, but there's, I guess, the base there is supposed to be closed down. So they think, that may be, in like Antarctica. It's crazy.
Yeah, you don't just close bases down unless there's a weird reason, and you don't not say why unless it's something fucked up we're not supposed to know about.
Yeah.
And I'm not like a big conspiracy theorist. My brother was, so I don't go like deep into the conspiracy stuff. But there's a point like when you grow up near a base and every neighborhood gets shut down, and there are people in military vehicles knocking door to door asking if you saw anything strange today, that you grow up and realize that some of this shit's not conspiracy. Some of it just weird shit happens.
Oh yeah. So for the rest of you that aren't, if you're not following it, there was a whistleblower. Is it David Grush? Is that his name?
I think that's it. I can look
So he's they're going to be having a Senate, and supposedly it's supposed to be public. But they're going to be having a Senate investigation with him. He said that we have crashed UFOs and alien bodies, that we actually possess them in the U.S. And supposedly one of the things that came out was they found a UFO that's essentially the size of a football field. It was too big to move. So essentially they built a base around it.
Wow.
And so they're trying to figure out, all the like online, sleuths are trying to figure out, could it be here? Could it be there? Well, there was a base they built here, and then within Antarctica, you have, what was it? Admiral Byrd, that whole investigation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's supposedly some big stuff's going to be coming out over the next, month or so.
The largest amount of alien-based documentations hitting public record oddly happened during the Trump era, where he actually got it's an insane amount of shit. And there's redacted stuff on there when you go to look at it, but oddly less is redacted than what they used to redact. So there's a little bit more information we have on there. There's this thing called the Blue Book that's very famous in the UFO world that got written by a guy and a secretary that worked for Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And like that book, sections of it finally became available during the Trump era. But yeah, now more shit. And yeah, you are right. It is David Grush.
Yeah.
Grush. I can't pronounce names.
Yeah. Did you? Sorry, go ahead.
I was like, it's kind of an exciting time to for all this stuff right now.
Oh yeah, totally. And again, all of this, you take it with a grain of salt. It's just very interesting that they're actually going to be, digging into this, because obviously there is, it's mathematically impossible that we're alone. It's just trying to figure out, what's happening. But did you read the whistleblower on 4chan? His post, it happened over like 4 days.
Yeah, I read it when someone grabbed it and put it on Reddit, because I don't ever go to 4chan, so I catch it all on Reddit. Yeah.
Yeah, same here. That's where I grabbed it as well. So supposedly there was this whistleblower. Again, take it with a grain of salt. It's 4chan. It could be just somebody, totally making shit up. But what he was talking about was, the UFOs that people are seeing are unmanned. There's actually these large construction facilities that custom make these UFOs to do different things. We don't know exactly what it is. Again, this is a whistleblower, and this could be all lies. It was just a very interesting story. But he was talking about, his department only knows of one base, and it's essentially where the Bermuda Triangle is. And he said that the base will either hide itself, or if it feels threatened, it will attack. So some people are theorizing that a lot of the missing vessels within the Bermuda Triangle are because of this alien base. The ships probably made a diverted course rapidly, or made a somehow, got too close to it and were destroyed by this construction facility. They said they know of one fighter jet that actually went aggressively towards it. And they said that the fighter pilot was gone before he even knew anything was happening.
Wow.
Yeah.
Completely
Again,
obliterated.
yeah.
Yeah.
Again, take it with a grain of salt. But it was a very interesting read, for somebody that was saying they were, a whistleblower.
I know in some of the comment threads on that, they were talking about how a good possibility, if again this were real and happening, was that a lot of them were probably designed for environmental sampling to sample our environment to know what was safe, what wasn't, or whatever. But I'm the same way. Like, again, I'm a nut about this kind of stuff, but at the same time, I want to believe that everything in the world is real. Every religion is right, aliens real, Bigfoot's real, but I still need to actually see it to truly say, oh yeah, that's real.
Yeah.
Like, so with the grain of salt thing, I think people ignore that too much. They really should try and think scientifically, no matter how exciting the news could be.
Yep, totally. Who was that scientist that said billions and billions? What the hell was his name? Jar Jar, you know it, right?
Which one?
Billions and billions of stars guy?
Yeah.
Talking about Neil deGrasse?
No.
Or the guy in the wheelchair?
Carl Sagan.
Carl
Oh,
Sagan.
Sagan.
Yeah.
Okay. If you want to watch something totally interesting, had to be like in the 70s. He made a video talking about other dimensions. And that's one of the things that they're talking about. Possibly these UFOs and the aliens that we're seeing could potentially be not aliens, but could be from a different dimension. And you think about, like, we see that in Marvel, it can't be true, but the way he describes it is totally fascinating. How it could be totally realistic. But he uses the example of, like, a 2D world, and he shows examples of like a square, with a triangle, and they go in their little house and everything's flat, and you're interested in seeing what they're doing. But they don't know the 3D world. They just know the 2D world. Until you interact with it, then they know the 3D world. It's the guy's, obviously he's past tense, but absolute genius. But very fascinating. If you look up Carl Sagan, and I think it's just look up like dimensions experiment, or not experiment, but example.
Yeah. You'll also want to look up ley line theory, because while that was a known thing at the time, that after that statement became extremely popular. I can't remember the name of the movie, but Christopher Lloyd did a movie that focused on dimensional travel and ley line theory when all that was like getting really popular again in the 90s.
Oh, wow.
But it's how they explain the Bermuda Triangle, the Michigan Triangle, the Ohio Triangle. There's these different places where multiple major and minor ley lines converge, and all the minors and majors only converge in one place in the world, and that's somewhere outside of Cleveland, Ohio. But then like 7 of them cross in the Michigan Triangle, and but 13 of them cross to the Bermuda. So it's a really interesting, just weird read about. It's almost like where magic meets science is the kind of concept behind it. There's these energy nodes, and that's how they transfer from one dimension to the other. It's so cool to read about, man.
So when Uatu shows up pretty soon, we're just gonna be like, why didn't Pink Floyd find you first?
Yeah. It's just very cool how there's a lot of strange stuff that's just we're learning about, and I agree with you, Raz. It's a very exciting time to for an interest in stuff like this. Even if you just don't believe in aliens at all, just like this, the science aspect of it. Just googling like the double slit experiment. that will friggin' blow your mind. Like
that's a whole rabbit hole right there. A good one though, a really cool one.
Yeah.
What was that one now?
The double slit experiment.
Okay.
So essentially, and Raz definitely correct me if I'm wrong here, but so it's a scientific experiment that changes based on if we're viewing it or not. So essentially, they have a beam of particles going through a slit, and what they do is the beam hits the slit and it disperses in a special pattern. Where if they introduce two slits, it disperses in. Sorry, they have two slits. If they're sending it through one slit, it's a pattern. They do it through both slits, it's a different pattern. And essentially, they'll send it through one slit, and if they monitor what it's doing, it behaves totally differently, like it's actually going through like two slits. But only if we're monitoring it. So essentially, looking at it changes the test results. And some people think, well, does that mean our universe is based on our vision? Like in a video game, you're in a world, but like a video game will only draw as far as it can see.
Yeah.
And as you move, it'll continue to draw. So some people think that could be it. And it gets a little crazy where they've done the test with light that's farther away, and they say because it changes, it's actually going back in time, which that just blows my mind there too.
Yeah, it leads into like some really complicated quantum mechanics, but yeah, it's there's so much cool shit about it though. I mean, that's not even just a rabbit hole. That's like take a year off and like really look into the kind of thing. But it is really cool though, and they tried it with different colored lighting at one point in time too, which they felt the chroma patterns could potentially access different dimensions because different dimensions were more sensitive to certain chroma keys. So like that was another cool thing that they found. There was one way they said where they could look at it in different like side dimensions, basically, or the past that they theorized. It's a special kind of UV light. It's not like black lights you'd see at haunted houses and or people's bedrooms or whatever. It's a special kind of UV that can only be generated electronically, and they used that, and they claim that one of the people experimenting with that type of UV light was able to actually see into the future. But they had no like basis of comparison to know how far into the future it was or landmarks or anything. It was like a window almost that they said like into the future, but everything appeared normal there. So they weren't really sure if it was like 5 minutes, 5 years, 500 years, and just nothing had changed in that spot. They couldn't quantify it.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that basically what Schrodinger was trying to, he was kind of mocking things, but with quantum superpositioning on if something is unobserved, it changes its behavior.
Yeah.
That word that you guys were just saying before. But he started, his whole thing was supposed to be kind of a joke at that high level of physics. But so now it seems like it's being proven that it's actually something that could be happening. Potentially.
I don't think quite to the degree where his claims were, but potentially. But that's the thing about quantum theory. A lot of people theorize all these crazy things, and some of it is just them half drunk coming up with these weird ideas. I mean, someone does something weird and it gets proven. A really cool example of that, something Tesla theorized long, long ago happened accidentally just this week, where these people had made some kind of ion-based contraption that could actually measure the amount of moisture in the air. They designed this machine, fabricated it like to all these specifications, and then the guy in charge of plugging the machine in for them to do the reading just forgot to plug it in. But the machine powered itself on, and they discovered that it created enough, the ionosphere created enough of electrical charge to actually draw power from to power the machine. It was a little machine, so it took like almost nothing to power it. But then they redesigned it, and they're able to get more and more and more power out of these little machines. And it's clean technology. It's not like burning the ionosphere or anything like that at all. So you don't get that like that burnt ion kind of smell. They said that none of that, but they think that a lot of Tesla's original theories will be proven true based on this accident. Like, and they're calling it the biggest, accidental discovery like in our like modern era, basically.
Well, and sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say he would talk about his theories, but he wasn't one for writing things down very often, because he was such a ridiculous super genius that he was able to plot everything out in his head and actually like test run things in his head to decide whether they were viable or not before taking the time to put everything down.
Yeah.
But Leo, you were...
Oh, no, I was just going to say, like, one of the things that he was working on actually before he died was, the being able to wirelessly deliver power.
Yep. And that's what they're saying they just discovered on accident. The ability, the way to actually effectively do that, which would change literally the entire planet as we know it. It'll take a while for them to build something safe and that big to really like power it. But I think in the next 3 to 5 years, they'll be able to power at least an entire house worth of appliances and everything. That's pretty quick. 3 to 5 years is really quick to be able to hit that jump. So I'm interested to see if they can do it. But damn, that's cool, man.
We make crazy technological leaps all the time since the invention of the cell phone and stuff.
That's true.
It's been crazy. Like what we can do now compared to 10 years ago is just insane. And you wouldn't even think it would be possible.
Well, going back to like UFOs and stuff like that, you look back at our history and the leaps in technology. Like, a lot of our leaps, if you think about it, started possibly when there was alien crashes. Did they find those ships? Did they, were they able to reverse engineer some stuff? I'm
going to tell you something really interesting. Go back and look at the patents for some of this technology. One of the biggest ones you can look at is the patent for stealth fighter technology. Right, Pat, is the actual place of origin for so many weird technologies, and it all started within about 3 years after they carted all the Roswell crash back to Right, Pat. So it's really weird that like you're saying that, but all the patents are literally stamped Right, Pat Aerospace.
Do you by chance watch Skinwalker Ranch?
Oh yes. I was just talking to Nova because she told me you were into it. I was like, yes, I love that show, man.
I think it was it season 2? Where they found that the ground. So essentially the ground that they found in one area was holding like a charge. And they found out that the way the layers of the sediment are essentially is how a battery is built. So just how the ground is naturally, it's actually making its own natural battery, which is just crazy.
It's mind-blowing shit, man.
Yeah.
That's bizarre.
Yeah.
I was so excited because I just got Netflix back yesterday, and I'm like, I can watch all of Skinwalker Ranch again.
We've got them out of their cages. Oh no.
The current season had some lulls, but it's
I haven't seen the current one yet. I haven't started on that one because I want to go back and now watch all the ones back on Netflix again, and then I'm gonna start catching up with the new one. Every time a new season of anything comes out that I like, I always start back over from the very beginning of the show and just watch it all the way through, and then watch the new season.
Yeah. Well,
it's straight to my wife that I do that, but that's just what I do.
Well, that's the type of show that, like, I'll fall asleep watching it. It's I just really enjoy the experiments that they're doing because they're, it's not, I mean, it's obviously woo-woo stuff, but they're, it's real scientists trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, the main scientist actually was working for the UAP task force, which that was like mind blowing to hear that.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah,
what's UAP?
That's unidentified aerial phenomenon. That's what they're calling UFOs now.
Oh, okay.
So
we dropped the UFO language a couple years back. Officially, in all the documents, no longer UFOs.
Yep. Yeah. So essentially, they're trying to remove the stigma. And it could potentially be, this has all been gearing towards disclosure.
Yeah. Because the name change officially happened. It was relatively soon, right before the Trump era information dump happened, the public information dump. That's right around those things happened about the same time.
Yeah.
So it was weird that the name changed and all this information drops. Now there's all these whistleblowers coming out. Because even a couple coming out feels like a lot because of the information they potentially have.
Oh, yeah.
So it's so weird.
Even the videos from 2017. Has everybody seen the videos that they dropped?
No, although with the technology, we're at the point that it's reached with, you can't hide anything anymore. I can see there having to be an information dump coming up because some kid with a webcam crawled under a fence and.
Well, these were actually government released videos. So they were leaked. These were actually taken from fighter jets in both the Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean. There's one that shows, they call the Tic Tac, which is a UFO that looks like a Tic Tac and bouncing around. There's one that is actually, you see it going into the water. So it's like hovering and then it just goes into the water.
Wow.
Yeah, there's like the go fast one. I don't know what the speed was on it, but yeah, it's pretty fascinating stuff, and it's all, they only released the FLIR footage, so the hot and cold, visual footage.
Yeah.
But it's all official, taken straight from the military jets that were going after them.
I will have to look into that. That sounds like a fun rabbit hole to dive into.
It really is. It's interesting as shit. Because then, trust me, then you'll find out more about the Blue Book. Then you're gonna want to know about the Blue Book, and it just goes on and on and on, man.
Yeah.
Jar Jar, I'm joining the cult, I think.
I'm sorry. I always thought it'd be a great idea for a comic book to make all these things an actual phenomenon, and why the government would hold back information from us, even flat Earth would be real, and why the we're all trapped in this dome on top of a turtle, and flying through space directly upwards because that's how gravity works. And
great Atuin.
It's very interesting stuff, and I'm the whole thing Raz said, where I have to see it to believe it. I've been like this with religion. I went to church for a long time as a kid, from 3 to I don't know, 12 or 13. And being one of those people, I'm just I want to believe, I love to believe in supernatural stuff, even ghosts and stuff like that. But I've never experienced anything that I could be oh, that's on. Don't get me wrong, I scare the shit out of myself still, and will run up the dark stairs and fuck this, something's gonna get
jump
me.
Onto the bed.
Yeah. But I've never once had that experience where I'm just wow, that maybe there is something out there.
I've seen, UFOs. Again, where I lived, it was pretty normal. But again, I can tell you that I've seen this ship that no one in town can identify or tell me what it is, or even the local government's we're not talking about it. And I can tell you, there's aliens because I've seen that. But for all I know, could have also been technology that they were testing that they didn't want us to know. You know what I mean? I've seen this stuff, and I believe in aliens, but I can't factually, scientifically look at you and say, yes, that's a UFO. There's aliens and they're from the planet, whatever. Pluto, damn it, still deserves to be a planet.
I totally love the stuff too, listening to the stories and stuff. I'll watch all those documentaries on, except for I've still not gotten into the Skinwalker Ranch. But
join us, Jar Jar. Join us.
You should. If you want to take it back farther, I have a weird family tie to the group of people involved in the Fire in the Sky.
Oh,
you guys know what I'm talking about? It was a group of vloggers. Yeah, it was crazy. So my cousin Pink, yes, his name was actually Pink. He logged with them a lot in Tennessee and Kentucky and all kinds of different places. There's a lot of money in it, and Pink drank himself half to death most of the time. So he was always working or drinking. He ended up causing a forest fire later because he fell asleep with a lantern. That's a whole other story. So he worked with them both before and when Travis went back to logging after. He's the only one that really went back to logging for a while after. Worked with him again for a while after. And he said the difference between him from before it happened and after it happened, he was a completely different human being. Thought differently, acted differently, everything about him. It was almost like he would always use the word pod person when he would describe Travis. He's like that's what it was like. So when I was a kid out there staying with Pink and that part of my family, because we only went out there when someone died, so it was always funerals, always funerals. But funerals down there in that Neon, Kentucky town I was telling you about, they were huge. The whole town would turn out. There'd be a party, like you'd sit up with the dead, which was the custom there. It was normal. So the corpse would be in the room, and you'd be partying and eating and like telling stories. Well, my great aunt needed to go to the actual mountain house up, where the rich people live, who were all just rednecks anyway. So didn't want to go alone. It was kind of, a little stormy out, not quite raining, but, you got the lightning and thunder. She did not want to go by herself. So here I am, 7, 8 years old. I'll go with you. And I've never shot a gun officially in my life, but I held one that day because she wanted me to hold it for her to carry it up the hill. So we get up the hill to the house, and, I've got this shot. I don't know what the fuck to do with this shotgun. I'm going to blow myself over if I even try and shoot this thing. And we get there. She's like, okay, now hand it to me. I'm like, why did we need to take a shotgun? This whole path is lit. And she's like, it's because of what I think might be in the house. And I'm like, what do you mean what might be in the house? She's like, just be quiet, shine the flashlight, follow me. This always happens during storms like this. And I'm like, okay. So I follow her in. We come in the back door where the kitchen is. And you see something. I'm talking like her knee size. So like my waist, run out of the kitchen around the corner. And I'm like, fuck was that? Like on 2 feet, just running around the corner. Like, what the fuck was that? She's like, that's what I'm talking about. Just keep the light shined low. So we go around the corner real quick, and there's this fucking thing standing there. Like, it's got this like greenish, grayish skin, kind of how they describe the grays in alien terms, but very, very tiny, small. And this again is also, Neon is known for a lot of weird shit, cryptids. There's goblins, supposedly cryptids over there. And everyone in my family thinks that this is actually an alien. They're all convinced. Pink is convinced that this is an alien. But I see this thing, and it's just got hollow like sockets. I don't even see eyeballs, just hollow sockets. Its skin is just kind of saggy. It reminds you fucking of Dobby, the elf, and the Harry Potter movies, like that kind of thing, but without the pointed ears and like a grayish, sickly green color. And it looked at her, and it shrieked so loud. The window behind us blew out. She's trying to shoot the shotgun, but she's an old lady who's shaking. So she blows the bar, like, that you sit at and eat, half a fucking part with a shotgun. This thing is screeching. The window's shattered. It jumps out the window. She shoots 3 more times. She puts a hole in the roof, shoots the porch light off the front porch. Or the back porch, sorry, the back porch light. And it gets away. And she's just like, God damn it did it again. And I'm just like, and I'm looking around, and I'm seeing other bullet holes that I never noticed before in this house. I never thought to think about what they were or why they were there. And now I know, because whatever the fuck this thing has been doing this for years to her. And she just shoots everything with a shotgun and blows holes through her damn house. So that's how I learned there was a potential goblin or alien or some weird thing. Still don't know what it is. I don't want to know. But I know now why there were holes all through her house that were repaired.
It wasn't just for the snakes to get in.
No, not the snakes. It was apparently an alien. That's what Pink told her it was. That's what she believed. And I still don't know what the fuck it was, man. I have no idea. I got no explanation. I'm not going to try. But it was weird, and there was a shotgun and shattering glass, and I was a damn kid. And I'm not going to lie, I pissed myself. The first time I saw it, and then there was a puddle beneath me by the time the first shotgun blast happened. I was done. I don't think I would even go back for funerals for like 7 or 8 years at least. It's probably it's a good decade that I would even go back with my mom to there again. More because of the shotgun than anything. more because of that, I think, than the weird experience.
I mean, that's understandable.
But I've seen that, and I still can't tell you if aliens or whatever officially exists because I don't know. Maybe somebody slipped something in the damn food, and I hallucinated the whole thing. Except we were both hallucinating it, and we both ate different food, and she's shooting shotguns at it.
Moldy bread can do some weird shit to people.
It can, man.
All right. Anybody got another story? Gonna hop in a story?
Sure.
Jenny, you want to do yours?
Yeah,
Barrett?
sure. Do that.
All right. Not that we aren't having fun telling stories this way, but we also do have some stories.
Okay. Well, I found out that back home was very weird. We loved our dead. We celebrated our dead by telling stories. Like going to, like having field trips to the cemetery to make pencil rubbings of the words on the tombstones and then go back and look in books and find out who was there. We would have tours. I found out that kids don't normally do this. Their teachers don't randomly take them on ghost tours and say, in this house, there was a lady that had lived here, and she would explain the stories of the different houses that were rumored to be haunted and whatever. And I think the thing that stuck with me most is one of the stories she told as we crossed the railroad tracks would be that there would be these gaseous forms that everybody saw gaseous forms for the most part just come up the tracks and just keep going. But I found out the truth one night. The train was like, it hadn't come by. So we all woke up because we're used to it coming by at a certain time. So I met my dad outside. And there were more than usual going up and down the tracks. Except we didn't see them as gaseous forms. It's almost like the spirits were walking up and down the track, conversing with each other, talking about something. Like this one, these two men in older clothes, button-up shirts, dark-colored pants, were walking up the tracks towards the hill, and they were talking about something they needed to do. They needed to go and hunt and get food for the family for that night. And this other lady was just walking down, except when she got to the part where the vehicles would go past on the train tracks, she just kept going at an angle. And we watched her go up and just go straight in the house. So we started following. And she went to the kitchen and just started doing things. She started looking through the cabinets like there was something there that she should get for some reason. And this had not been a normal thing I had seen before. I knew about the gaseous forms. I knew about the spirits. I knew that my grandfather had stayed around, but neither of us could figure out why she was messing around in the kitchen, why she had started bringing things out for, I guess she was going to bake something. And then my dad said, "Who are you? What are you doing?" And she just disappeared. And that is one of the scariest gaseous form things. I know on other places they talk about them being lights on the railroad tracks. That I can find more than it being actual spirits. But the traffic is just not something I had knew was normal for any other town. And I think one of the worst ones I saw of the spirits was one of the people up the street had drove their car off the back. Well, not back, but straight back and went down the drop, sudden steep drop. And when they hit, I think something happened and they broke their neck or whatever. Something happened and they passed away, and I could see them walking past on the train tracks like they were still going to get to their destination. And it confused me that normal people would talk about it, but they couldn't see it. And that's my story for tonight.
Hell yeah.
I'm all chatting with him like muted. So yeah, Rich's like, what? She's trying to be a mime.
Yeah.
I make sure I mute myself now because I tend to make side comments.
I'm happy with side comments. I'm happy with you commenting on anything I'm saying, even if you don't believe it. That's fine.
Oh no! It's not that. Like with Leo, when he's telling his stories, I sit there and I'll like comment as he's going. I'm just like, oh shit, I should shut up. But my ADD, like if I have something to say, I automatically say it. So like I better mute myself so I can sit there and listen and not be like blah 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 blah.
You're adding commentary, Jar Jar. Nothing wrong with that.
I'm okay with commentary. I live with the commentary. My brother starts every conversation with yeah, because he's already had most of the conversation before he starts having it with me.
I am guilty of that as well. I started training myself with like all of my typing and stuff to make sure that I always use complete sentences and that I don't start everything with so. I was gonna, I
want to do that all the time with you guys, and then I realized I must add more commentary because I'll put it, and then you're like, "What's going on?" I am so confused.
Well, I don't want to. Leo here has been very generous and given us over 2.5 hours of his time, and I know that he needs to get taken off. Oh, it was great having you. You have to show up sometime too on. We do have another show called Padded Cell, and it's just squirreling out the whole time. Just everybody sitting and chat about Skinwalker Ranch or whatever you do. Just a fun time to catch up with everybody and just be goofy. Spend a little time of therapy together.
Sounds good. Yeah, just we can set up a time for that. Just what day do you normally do that on?
It's one of our Sunday rotationals.
Okay.
They're going to do it this week or this month while we're all down at Terrificon.
Yeah.
But we'll set up and let you know what the next one we're going to do is from August. That's the next month.
And that's the fun part with our Sunday show because like we can literally move like which of the 4 shows that we're going to do to any time on the calendar month just to kind of spice it up and move things around for people. So it's actually fun because we've done 2 story nights in a row before. We've done 2 clutches back to back before, like, so it's really cool. It switches things up a lot on Sundays.
Nice. You know what I say is I think we need to get Jar Jar to watch Skinwalker Ranch
at some point,
and then we'll have a discussion on it.
I have lots of shows I need to watch at this point.
Yeah, but they're not as important as Skinwalker Ranch, Jeremy. Just stop them all. Stop watching them all, and then just watch this.
Even Martha, my mother-in-law, believes you should watch Skinwalker Ranch because I have to.
Maybe just give it.
My problem, nobody else will watch it with me. I'll be sitting there and everybody, what are you watching? I'm like, oh, you don't want to know.
Just watch it with yourself and then just let your mind.
Messenger.
We can have like a Pluther party watching it all together or something.
Yeah. There's the group chat. Let's do that.
Oh, yeah. That'd be awesome. Just remember, aliens.
Yeah.
Somebody used the picture of him in a chat at work, and everybody's like, I love that guy, but I don't know who he is. And obviously, I was a sad one to say, oh, that's I forgot his name now. Giorgio.
I forgot his name. I just call him the alien guy for so long now. I've completely forgotten his name.
Yeah,
It's
but
something, but
yeah, I responded in chat. Oh, that's Giorgio. So I look like a complete, freak at work. But
I mean,
of course, the more I find out about you, the more I like you.
Well, I want to thank you all for having me.
Thank you for being here, man.
If you want to learn anything about Leo, just check the show notes up above or down below.
Yeah, and you can find me and Jar Jar and Carrie on Tuesday's show. We're gonna have Mitch this week, right, Jar Jar?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Mitch Halleck of Terrific Con.
Yeah.
That sounds terrific.
Oh, dude, I this guy, like, he's a celebrity in my mind. Like, the way he puts on Terrificon is just, it's amazing as a comic book geek. You go to cons these days and they're not so much comic book driven. So this one really is.
Yeah, he's a good dude. So we're going to be having him Tuesday, and then Wednesday, I think to still token to have Gigi Edgley this week.
Yes, we do, because what's his name? Jeff will be out, so I will be stepping in once again.
Nice.
And I've been there the whole month of July.
That's awesome. And and Midweek Geeks on Wednesday. So I think that'll be fun.
And where do you like people corresponding with you?
Yeah, you can Google me. You'll find me. But I run the Dorkening Podcast Network. Head on over to thedorkening.com. You can learn about us there. We also have check out Splash Pages. We have a YouTube we're trying to grow, and a Facebook group. So go join the group. We also have a page. But Splash Pages Comic Book Club, and the Dorkening Podcast Network. And I'm all around, so you'll find me everywhere.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us tonight, Leo.
Yeah,
thank
you.
It
was great to have you on.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I will see you on Tuesday.
Sounds good. Well, catch y'all later. Bye.
See you later.
Take care. All right. So we're getting all the plugs in here that we can for everything.
Yeah.
In about 15 minutes, I must go the way of the Leo as well.
All right.
It is late here.
Yeah, we're hitting almost 3 hour mark.
Are you ready? Do you have a story for us tonight, Jeremy?
Oh, have I worked up the courage? I think I can do this.
Okay.
All right.
You were awesome last time. You can be awesome now.
Oh, I wrote it out. Haha.
Nice.
Very smart this time. So my nerves may get the best of me, and I may knock my computer and lose you all right at the very end again, but hopefully I can read through this. Right. It's not a ghost story though, because all you guys have ghost stories. I'm just like Jeremy.
All right. My stories are ghost stories. I can't help it.
All right, meet Jeremy, a 44-year-old man with a sense of humor and a knack for finding hilarity in the most unexpected places. He also happens to have schizophrenia, but that doesn't stop him from embracing life with a side-splitting perspective. Jeremy's got it all: a loving girlfriend named Emily, 5 kids, including 3 stepchildren who keep him on his toes, and a brain that's constantly conjuring up comedy gold. Jeremy knows that he hit the jackpot when he found Emily, the love of his life, and the Amos to his Andy. I had it said something else before, and my girlfriend was like, people might get the wrong idea. Despite not sharing Jeremy's obsession with comic books and pop culture, Emily supports him in his wacky pursuits, from patiently listening to his podcast recordings to pretending to be interested in his latest comic book finds. Emily proves that love means embracing your partner's quirks, even if they involve grown adults in spandex. With a passion for comic books that rivals his laughter for love, Jeremy takes his fandom to the airwaves. Armed with a microphone and a whole lot of geeky enthusiasm, he runs a couple of podcasts about comic books and pop culture. But let's face it, with Jeremy's comedic timing and penchant for tangents, the podcast often turns into laugh riots where superheroes and supervillains become the subject of endless jokes and offbeat impressions. Jeremy's love for comic books and toys isn't just about the stories. They also serve as a canvas for his comedic imagination. With a collection that rivals the inventory of a comic book store, Jeremy often finds himself in hilarious situations as he attempts to organize, display, and protect his prized possessions, from battles with protective plastic cases to makeshift superhero photo shoots that end in disaster. Jeremy's collector's journey is filled with comedy gold. Amidst the laughter, why can I not say that? The laughter and chaos, Jeremy finds solace in the company of his 2 dogs and a cat. These furry companions add an extra layer of comedic mayhem to his life, with their hilarious antics and adorable misadventures. Whether it's the dog stealing his comic books for chew toys, or the cat thinking it's a superhero with its clumsy attempts at acrobats. Jeremy's furry friends provide endless laughter and remind him to appreciate the silliness in everyday moments. Through his comedic lens, Jeremy discovers that humor is a superpower in itself. It helps him to navigate the challenges of living with schizophrenia, connecting with others who find solace and laughter in his unique perspective. His podcast continues to gain a dedicated following, not only for their insights into comic book culture, but for their sheer joy and laughter they bring to listeners' lives. And that is my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I love the story of Jeremy.
Nice.
That was epic. And even my grandmother would applaud that. She became a nurse with her schizophrenia, and she was one of my favorites. So,
It
epic.
got really hot in here.
It's getting hot in here. Sorry.
Good job.
Oh yeah, man. That was awesome.
And it's part fantasy, part truth.
Nice.
The
And
fantasy part is the podcast becoming amazing and everybody joining and having millions of listeners across the U.S.
We're even working on helping with the YouTube channel because I'm sharing to everybody too.
Oh, you guys are great.
We will all
We'll
climb
get
there
there.
together.
The story of Jeremy shall be spread far and wide, and it will
I
gather
wish
the
I was
followers.
better at doing social media stuff. Beyond Facebook, I'm just like, ugh.
That's why we have our Gal Friday down there.
Well, I have a TikTok, but I can't keep up. Like Rich and everybody, they make videos like crazy, and like I can pop out a video here and there, but like it would be so much better if there was like an audio type of TikTok where you just
there is a voiceover that where you can talk about whatever you put up, make the video, and then you can do a voiceover.
Oh, I know that.
So you
my
can
hard
talk
part is
about-
making the video.
Yeah. There's audio
you can
file
pre-record
Reddits
it.
for that, where people get together and they do voiceover, just the audio only stuff. It's really cool. Like a bunch of groups on Reddit that do that.
Really?
Hmm?
I love audio. Playing with audio is so much fun.
That's my first love, man. Before I got really into video, like really, really into video, just audio is fucking
Oh, I
awesome.
watched my kid doing, as you guys were talking, the cap cuts or whatever it is. I'm just sit there and amazed. I'm like, how do you pull that all together?
I'm just grateful they're willing to tell their stories, even though they're better at it than I am on that app.
I just take a lot of pictures and stick them together and send them to this guy, and then he puts everything together, and then he sends it to that gal, and then she puts it up for us.
Well, God damn it, that's what I need is that guy, so I can send it to that gal.
Well, you got us.
Yeah, you can just send it right to me, man.
And
Okay.
all I need
if
is to
you
log
didn't-
in and know what you want. You give me the preliminary want, and I can figure out how to make it work.
Oh, Del saw it took me 3 hours to put together this small little video that's like really like grainy and like just not very well put together, but like I've had this audio that I've loved for it for so long and no video for it that I just threw this thing together. I was like, fine, I'm going to finally do it. I've asked other people to try to throw me a video for it, but nobody wants to work with me. I don't know why.
You've never tried to send it to me, my friend. I will work with you any day of the week. I love you to death,
I'll
dude.
send you the audio.
Please don't help.
Oh, yeah. Fuck yeah.
And
I love
actually,
projects.
Around 5 kids, we're good.
for those of you who watch The Clutch, Jeremy's the one who recorded the spin the wheel recordings when we finally got them.
Mhm.
And they've changed it now, so there are no cheaters. They fixed the wheel. So I'm going to have to ask you to record some of those again. Just a heads up.
Yeah. And
Holding a meeting real quick live.
And I'm going to drag you into... I know the people that have heard the first 2 episodes so far of the audio drama have heard the mention of the mysterious Mr.
Oh, no.
Oh, you just cut out.
character.
Speaking of audio,
Did I cut
the
it?
it was the mysterious
Oh,
Mr.
weird.
And then it stopped.
See that they don't want me to say the name. Mr. Morse, the mysterious owner of the haunted attraction that no one has seen or actually ever officially met. He only so far communicates with very formally written letters and emails. So far, but yeah, he's that's the big reveal, the big bad, pretty much of the whole show that you're gonna learn a lot more about. But I was just like,
spoiled it, Raz.
No, I didn't. It's already set up in episode 1. it's already set up like the beginning of episode 1 about him being the big thing. So
if you haven't heard, go check us out on YouTube, folks.
you can't yet.
I think that's the one show
Oh.
I haven't. Oh, okay. I was going to say
they'll
that's the
be
one
back
show
up
I haven't
this week.
seen yet.
They'll be back up this week.
Yay.
Already started working with them because I had to
All right.
retool the first 2 and remove some mentions, and I had to add a couple things. But all I have left to do now is add it, slap something in, and then put a new campfire video over it, and it's done. So that'll be this week. They'll both magically make their way back, and then they will be secretly released on random days at midnight. After that, so it's a mysterious pop-up show.
Again, subscribe, then you'll get notifications when they pop up. And show
You're
you.
listening to WOLR Radio.
You know, I get barely talking about notifications on Facebook. I barely get any of my friends' posts anymore.
Yeah.
There's a way to fix it.
How?
Go back and unlike and unsubscribe, and then re-like and subscribe, and it'll fix it. I had the same damn problem. Got tired of it, so I just went and started unliking the things I just didn't want to see anymore. And then I accidentally unliked a friend of mine and liked it again, and it fixed it. And then I started suddenly getting notifications back, so that I went through and did everything that I actually wanted to see. And for some reason,
now and again, I'll get like a one random post from a friend I haven't heard from in like a year or 2. I'm like, wow, where have you been on Facebook? And they're just like, I post every day. I'm like, really?
I get the high school friends where we added each other when Facebook first started, but we haven't actually spoken since like face to face since before MySpace. So I'll get their like pop up. I'm like, what the hell, man?
My feed is usually comprised of things that were posted 7 days ago.
Yeah, I get a lot of
something.
I get a lot
So
of
I'm just like, I would like to actually know what's going on, although a lot of my stuff is on business things. So
say what you want about MySpace, but when you made a MySpace in your MySpace wall, you could see what was going on now with everybody. You know what who their top friends were, their top favorite songs in the moment. Like it was just made in a way that kept you constantly real time connected. But now, like you get the 7 days later, like you find out about this important event that you were invited to, but never got the official invite.
Yeah.
Until 7 days after the invite was sent to you.
Oh, I had
Weird
a friend who
shit.
did the horrible thing with MySpace where whenever you would hop onto his page, it automatically triggered the song and it would just play over and over. And he had Magical Trevor was his song. And so I'd always have to turn off the volume. So everyone loves Magical Trevor. And it was just like, seriously, dude, I'm never going to go to your page because I cannot stand having to listen to that goddamn song over and over.
For a solid week once, I used the Misadventures of Shitman by Green Jelly as my landing page song that just played. You just go to the site and be like, it's poo poo. And okay, I'm done. I don't want to listen to the rest of that one. I love that song though. It's stupid, but same album that Three Little Pigs was on.
My mother.
I don't think I've listened to that album since the 90s.
I still talk to the only actual official member of Green Jelly.
Oh no!
Randomly, because that was a jam band. Half of Tool, the band Tool, was part of Green Jelly at one time. they've had more revolving famous and non-famous members than any jam band in the history of time. He still goes and will collect random musicians to beat Green Jelly at like a county fair, but bring all the puppets and everything and put on a stage show. Like it's an amazing project.
Oh, do you know who just did a tiny desk? Guar.
Oh yeah.
I'm just like, are you serious? Guar doing tiny desk? All right.
I had a couple, like a month or so ago, my mother sends me this text out of nowhere and it has an audio clip on it. And she's like, do you know what this is? And I play it and it's Three Little Pigs by Green Jello, but or Jelly.
No, they were Jello then. That was right before they got sued and became Green Jelly, yeah.
But I'm like, and I give her this brief lesson of, well, it's this by Green Jello, but they actually became Green Jelly because of this, and but it's obviously somebody doing a cover, and I'm not familiar with whoever is covering it because the sound just isn't quite right. And she's just like, of course you would know, thanks. And I get this whole thing later where they'd been out listening to karaoke, and they like could only text each other because it was so loud in the bar. And so my sister, like, my mom had asked my sister what it was, and she didn't know, and like she's back and she's like, did Carrie know what it was? Yes, and she gave me a fucking history lesson too. So
when I toured with my band, we were known as like the only band like in the 2000s that ever covered that song, and we covered it frequently, and I constantly do it. That's one of my go-to songs actually at karaoke, and I did it at a big horror con, Spooky Empire in Florida, and it was a big like vendors and stars, like everybody hangs out, you know, cash bar. And I got up there, and that was the whole cast of Hellraisers there. Tony Todd's there. Kane Hodder's there. Angus Scrim. This was one of the last conventions he did, the tall man from Phantasm before he passed away. Everybody was there. And I was like, all right, I'm going to need some audience participation on that one. Every one of the people that I just mentioned, and so many others, and just people at the con, got up right against the stage. And when they would have to do the not by the hair of my chinny chin chin, I put it out to the audience, and they would all just do it together. That was the last. I retired that song from karaoke after that because it was like, there will never be a cooler moment of me doing this song in karaoke for the rest of my life. So I will never do it again.
For real.
That's awesome.
It was so weird.
Weird is you though. I mean,
yeah.
It's all of us.
It was back in the days when I would still get frequently like overly drunk in public, in safe environments, of course. Like I didn't do crazy shit, but like I just didn't care.
Oh, lucky you.
I fell off the stage with my band once, like fell off the stage and hurt myself, and after that, I stopped drinking in public so much. After that,
yeah, I was a blackout god, so drinking at all.
Yep, I remember sometimes on tour before I stopped drinking as much when we were on tour and stuff. Where one time specifically, I woke up in my boxers in someone's front yard, and apparently it was 9 blocks away from the venue we played, and I just disappeared, and they found me like at a local diner because there was like a diner down the street from where I ended up, and they were just checking everywhere, and someone just happened to say, hey, did you check such and such diner? That's where usually everybody wakes up and goes to get rid of the hangover. He might have heard and gone there, and so happened like an hour of me sitting at this bar trying to figure out what town I was even in, what was happening, why I was in my boxers. They rolled in and came and got me, and I still don't know how I got there.
Yeah.
Fun.
I don't even consider myself an alcoholic. I'm just a bad drunk. I'm like, no, you don't want me to do that with you guys.
I would definitely call myself an alcoholic back in those days. It was
definitely back in those days I would, but now I'm like, it's not even something I crave. It's kind of like with cigarettes. I've quit them for so long. It's not even something I crave anymore. Yeah. It's kind of just like that thing that I used to do.
Cigarettes. That's what Raz craves.
Raz, you are a monster on them. I'm like, please, buddy.
I see him and then I'm just like, I gotta let one too.
I can't help it.
Man. You had me out with my little one hitter. I was like,
oh yeah, man. Yeah, I'm not a drinker. Like maybe, like every now and then, my wife would be like, hey, we want to drink. There's a special occasion. Hey, let's this New Year's Eve just buy like a couple $100 worth of liquor. And really invite family, friends. Let's everybody get shit faced, and we go to do this. And her and I will do like a shot and maybe have like a Smirnoff Ice or two, and we're like, nope, we were wrong. And all that alcohol will just sit there for fucking years until eventually we keep throwing more and more get-togethers, and more people that aren't us finally drink the liquor we bought. That's why it was so weird when I did the infused apple pie moonshine, because I hadn't drank in a while, and I didn't really want to drink the moonshine. But then we figured out that formula to it took the whole alcohol buzz almost out of it, and there was literally zero hangover the next day, none. So I did like 7 or 8 shots of that. Felt like the drunk vibe, but it was more of an energetic drunk and like smooth. I mean, the next day I woke up feeling like $1 million, and I've never had that happen before. This formula before, so I would drink that again before I would drink like anything like normally randomly drinking for the most part.
Yeah, hangover definitely helps keep me away. It's like I don't want to feel like that the next day. I love weed, like fucking get me in that like altered reality, but like I can still, if something goes wrong, I can fucking snap to
out
and
of
be
it.
Like, let's go.
Well, we used to smoke. I'm talking sometimes anywhere between like 3 to 6 or 7 ounces of band practice when I toured with the band. Well, this was normal because all of us slung weed, so we got free weed. So we would just get ounces together, and people would come and hang out and jam. And our practices were like sometimes 9 or 10 hour like of just practicing and recording and smoking. So ounces in, and then if something still happened after all that weed, just immediate, just turn off the buzz. It's just done. We're sober. Handle the bad situation. Then we go back downstairs and start playing again, and then we're high again. But it's weird how you can do with that with weed, just like turn off the buzz and just turn it back on when you're calm again.
It's kind of like, oh fuck, adrenaline's rushing. We gotta be serious right now.
That's why I love and hate those PSA commercials that got really big in the 90s. Like the 2 kids were playing with a gun, there's a fish, and someone's like, who do you think's going to get the fish when they get divorced? And then the one accidentally shoots the other one with a gun. I've never once in my life been high as fuck and decided to do something that fucking stupid.
Nope.
And then there's the worst commercial of all. These guys are in a car, shitty ass car, stoned as fuck, like, late age teenagers.
The drive-through.
Yeah, and they hit a kid in the drive-through, and you hear their little the bell on their bicycle ding. Yeah. And I'm just like, I will drive 2 goddamn miles an hour in an 85 mile an hour just because I'm paranoid that I'm going to hit something.
I've totally and if I hear done a sound that on the highway and been like, oh shit, I'm only doing 40.
And when if I hear a sound 3 blocks away when I'm stoned, I'm like, what's that? There's no way I'm not hearing a little kid's bike ding right next to me. But we learned it from watching you, Dad. We learned it from watching you.
I did. Thanks. That's one of the good traits he passed on. I was like, thanks, Dad. The marijuana was okay. The alcohol did not work.
One of my friends on the stand-up circuit used to do a bit about DARE and how it was great because the shirts that they gave out were black, and they would always cover up any resin stains that you might end up with.
They did. They totally did. And I'm a little bit younger than you guys, but not by much. But weirdly, like, I don't know. Like, I'm not quite a millennial, but everybody disagrees on when being a millennial actually started.
Yeah, so I'm sub-pocket, which is called Zillennials, which are like in between millennial and Gen X. It's like this, like around 1980 to 88 or something like that.
Yeah, and I'm 82, so like I'm at the beginning of the Zennials. So I remember everything else that everyone remembers from back then. Plus, I'm weird and I like older stuff, so I've always gone back like the 20s, 30s, like weird stuff. Like, but it was just it's such a weird thing to be able to connect all that to the more modern stuff. But because of where I grew up, we were kind of stunned with a lot of stuff we had access to, especially being poor. So I didn't even like grow up like a normal Zillennial did. I grew up with nothing but Gen X everything. So that whole pocket just freaks me. It's so weird, man. Like the things I'm supposed to remember.
So I'm right at the end. I'm like, I had the same kind of like upbringing. We had video games, which was weird, but like my dad had to work like so many jobs, and still we were like dirt poor. We were on on welfare, everything, and like I used to go with my mom to the welfare place, pick up the welfare check. It was it was normal.
Get your cheese.
Yeah.
Back when they legit had the cheese, like
the block of cheese, the teddy bear peanut butter tub.
Yep.
It was huge.
Back when we had actual food stamps, and now it's
I remember, like, I can't believe back then I was so embarrassed to go to the store with food stamps or something. Now today I'm just like, oh, whatever.
The thing is, we were supposed to be ashamed that we were poor. That's how society made us feel. We were supposed to feel that way in their eyes. And now it's gone from, people in our generation, it's really hard for because we grew up that way. So it's hard sometimes for us to accept help. Or then we feel guilty that we've had to ask for help. And then there's the whole, family guilt trip thing that runs through your head from your childhood. Like, don't do this or your grandma's going to die. It's weird statements that our family members would actually make. So we were taught to, like, mental health issues are bad. Needing help is bad. Being poor is bad. And then, the year 2000 hit. And then slowly but surely everything is all these things that were bad. Or no, it was actually bad that we were taught that they were all bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there was a silent generation before the boomers that just did everything, didn't talk about it. It was just all kept behind. And then it became more of a stigmatism than it is. Instead of ignoring it, you had to shame people for it.
Stigma.
Sorry.
Stigmatism is why I have to buy expensive content.
No,
stigma
I was saying a stigma, but I said it too fast.
Yeah.
But
making fun of my lazy
stigmatic. But I feel bad sometimes now because people get so judgy about it, and I'm on Snap, and the problem is that I have family members who buy me nice things, and so I'm going, or they buy themselves nice things, and then I get the hand-me-downs when they're done with them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going up and pulling out my Snap card out of a Michael Kors purse that has a Coach wallet. But they aren't mine. I didn't buy them. It was like,
you're the person that they all get mad at.
Yeah, so I'm sitting there and they're all like, "Oh, using Snap, huh?" With that and that. I'm like,
drives away in a Ferrari.
Did you notice that my shoes are caulking and I have holes in my pants? But I have a nice fact that somebody loved me at Christmas.
To this day, I don't care if I ever became a millionaire. I don't throw clothes away. I have cigarette burns in half of my clothes and in my shorts, like paint shit on them. Like I live in my clothes.
Be like 10 to 15 years old. Yeah.
Once it is reduced to a rag that I can then use to like clean up paint spills or do something with, then it's a rag. Then it's got a new use. And then maybe 10 years after that, that shirt I loved from my childhood is finally thrown away. Yeah. Shoes, I'll keep a pair of shoes, the same pair of shoes for like 10 years.
I buy a new pair of shoes once a year. Only because I wear the fuck out of my shoes, but I keep the one pair I've had, I think now 5 years, because they're just so comfortable. They're my around the house kicking around. The one that I pick up is if I go out and have to look presentable. Shoes. Yeah.
There's
the woman's like, boots, you look like we're poor than poor.
There's the Vimes boots system theory of economics, and it's from Terry Pratchett's Discworld books. And Commander Vimes grew up dirt poor in the gutter, and he ended up marrying a very rich, wealthy lady. And he notices that, like, throughout his whole life, he was only able to afford to buy, like, the boots with the cardboard soles and really shitty put together, and they fall apart after a year, so you have to buy another one. But the really rich people get by with buying one pair of boots that lasts them for, like, 10 years. So they don't have to invest in it.
It's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah. And that's where we're stuck at now.
Yeah. No, but that's how I used to be. I used to think buying because I was in construction before I became disabled. And I always bought, I thought my feet were supposed to hurt. Like my feet have always hurt. I was like, you're working, your feet are supposed to hurt. It was like, no, I finally one day broke down and bought a really nice pair of boots. And it was a whole nother world. And they lasted, I'd say probably 5 times the length of the special $20, $30 Walmart brand.
Yeah. When we were like young, I remember like the fancy brands were like LA Gear, the weird, like they had the little license plates on the back of your shoe. You buy those shoes, they'd fall apart. Yeah, those shoes would fall apart in like a month. But if you bought like the generic like Payless shoes for like $20, they'd last you a fucking day.
My Skippies. Hell with people. Skippies cost $1.99. I wore them all the time.
when Airwalk first came out and they were its own company before they sold out.
Perfect.
Dude, and it was like the most expensive those shoes ever got. And I have giant feet, so my parents had to special order a pair of like size 13s. It was only $50. That's it. That was the most expensive they got for custom ordering their shoes. It was the most expensive pair of shoes I've ever had in my life.
I wish they still had shoes like that, because those were my favorite shoes.
I had those shoes for 14 years before finally no amount of insoles could save them again, and I just finally had to like let go of them. So my mother does not know this, but they are buried somewhere in the pet cemetery along with the pets in the backyard. Those shoes are buried with the
Okay, and I'm sure this won't surprise you. I dated a guy who always carried around an umbrella and wore a beret. And whenever his umbrellas would finally break down, because he didn't just use them as umbrellas, he would use like the walking cane umbrella type of thing.
Yeah.
They were named, and he would have funerals for his umbrellas and bury them in various places. And if you knew where to look in Omaha, Nebraska, in the old market area, there would be like, he named them all after satanic things. So there would be like, oh, Lucifer the umbrella is buried right behind the old coffee shop in that little area between the ditch and the wall to the ground, and
Yep, we did that with there was a whole summer where every time, like in this group, I'm talking like this extended group was like the band, several different circles of friends. We just all hang out together, like, and do like 40, 50 person parties and like euchre tournaments and tons of weed. If any of us had a piece break or snap, wood, stone, metal, glass, it didn't matter what it was, we all gathered together and had an actual like funeral for this thing and buried it somewhere around town. So like that summer, there were just like dozens of pieces just interred into the ground with proper ceremonies, and whoever owned it would have to like actually write their little speech and like come up and give it. Like it was we would just like pull the PA equipment out of the band house and just set up the microphone and the amp and like, here lies such and such. It was so weird, but it was fun too.
So my dad had custom tombstones made for whatever reason, and he put them in the backyard right next to each other, and he buried carpets about 6 feet down. And somebody had decided to call the cops, and they came and said they had to bury them up. They had all the paperwork, well, not bury, but dig them up, and they had the right paperwork and everything. So Dad's like, okay, go right ahead. So they unburied them, saw they were carpets, then re-put all the dirt in the hole with the carpets on top. And he's like, no, go put the carpets back where I had them. So they end up having to turn around, put the carpets back, and they did not like that at all. And I think our neighbor finally decided to shut up and leave us alone.
Hell yeah.
I would never think to bury carpets.
Yeah,
I am going to
you use carpet to transport bodies, not to bury.
An Airbnb that I stayed at, the guy, only time I actually enjoyed being at an Airbnb where the people lived in the house that you were connected to the part of. Like we had our own little like apartment, but it was also connected to the rest of the house where they actually lived. And it was on this, what do they call them? What are vultures and crows? What kind of birds are they?
Carrion.
Yeah, it was a whole place for them to rehab these kind of birds. And they had an owl inside that like you could go up and pet. It was the coolest thing in the world. But the guy had actually made his own tombstone and coffin and showed us where he was going to bury himself up on a hill, had all the money, all the deeds for whatever, the licensing to get it done and stuff. It was crazy. And also like everybody that he had go there would sign the little inbox book that he was taking and decorating his coffin with. It was pretty interesting stuff.
Nice.
That's crazy.
It's kind of interesting when you find a person that's that calm with, passing on to the next life, that they're like, preparing for it.
Yeah, that's one of those uncomfortable conversations to have sometimes.
Oh, I loved it. He
Well, I
was
mean,
the most. He was so interesting.
you weren't his kid though.
No,
Like, kind of
no. I'm sure. Like, yeah, I'm sure his kids and stuff are just like, all right, Dad, let's not talk about the plot on the hill again.
Yeah,
I have full blown plans for this, like in place and pretty much ready to go, involving different possible scenarios of my.
All I want is my friends and family to, have a good time, but also the family to get rid of it, my body, as cheaply as possible. I'm not one of those people. I want like a big elaborate thing. I just want them, do the celebration and then move on.
Okay, see, here's my plan. I need them to go ahead, and if I haven't lost the weight by then, I want the corner to go ahead and just trim off a bit here and there. It's not like I'm going to need that. Get a really nice gothy dress and get my hair all done up with the curls, and then they're going to have to go through, and this is once I'm embalmed, of course, and slowly, like, the dress has to be highly starched. They're going to have to put layer after layer of hairspray in the hair, and then slowly start adding coats of epoxy so that I can eventually be stood up as like a giant ornament of myself in epoxy, looking all goth and hot. And they'll be like, yep, and that was your great aunt Cartel. She just
humble to the very end.
My favorite plan is
we have to haul her around. She weighs 300 pounds, but
I want to be put in an all glass sarcophagus and actually put in the queue line of a haunted attraction.
Oh, that would be fucking crazy.
That's like my favorite, like the one that I want to do the most if I ever have that opportunity. But it depends on, what does me in, because I've got plans for there's not enough of my body, what I want to happen, like, all those little weird plans. But
I'm not against being donated to science either. Like,
yep,
and I'm not one of those people that have this weird thought that my body's going to be like used for like lung cancer research or anything. I'm like, if they put me in a Humvee and blow me up, like, that's still science.
I've experienced in this. So when my dad passed, that's what he wanted. My mom's will has that. My grandma that passed not that long ago, that was her plan. It's going to be what I sign on for too. I'll tell you why. It's very respectful. They come and get the body wherever it is. They take on all the fees, so you and your family have none. They use you for the most part. I mean, it depends on where you go. If it's the body farm, then that's a whole different, scenario of studies of decomposition. But one of the best places to donate to is a body lab at a college, because they train doctors, physicians, physical therapists, and medical massage therapists with these bodies. And I actually got to go and spend like a lot of intern time working in a body lab at a local college from my own college, which is a different college. We just had a connection over there, and being able to physically touch like the organs, like in my hand.
You're fucking crazy.
The skin, like just seeing how everything worked, like it made you more compassionate, if anything, because like the compassion behind it. So knowing that was what it was going to be like for my father and all the people that he was going to inspire and help learn all these things that I learned, and more important people than me would learn, it helped him to make that decision because he saw how much it affected and how much it helped me. So that actually helped him. And the really cool thing is, they only actually use the body for a very, very small amount of time. Yeah. And then the family has three options. They can either return the body to you so you can bury it, and they pay for it all. They will cremate you and put you in an urn, pay for it all, and then bring the urn to you. Or most campuses actually have what's called the donor graveyard, which is actually a lot more beautiful than it sounds. It's where they honor the people that donated their bodies that didn't have a family for it to go to or whatever reason, and they bury you, and it's like a celebration of life and death. Like these campuses decorate it. There's a lot of thank you signs. There's a lot of meaning. Plaques get put up, and that's where my dad is buried, in one of those graveyards around a nearby campus. But it's beautiful. And like the whole process is so actually amazing.
I kind of wanted also.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Del.
I was gonna say I kind of always wanted, the other thing would be to like donate to Body Worlds or some program similar to that. Like Ruth Van Hagen runs it, and they have all these. Like I'm sure you've all seen some of the displays before. One of his more famous ones is the man holding his skin, or the skinless skater, and it shows how all the muscles and tendons in the body work because he's like doing a kick flip or an ollie or something like that, and like just the vascular system itself. They're very intense. But the reason that I have epilepsy is due to a serious head injury when I was a kid. And there's just this huge chunk of scar tissue in the frontal lobe of my brain. And I think it would be cool to get slides done of the brain, like in each section, and then have it fanned around so you could see, like, this is what the brain looks like. And here on this side is where the damage is done. And here's the comparative side to what it should have looked like.
Yeah.
And stuff, but see it all around one per, like, I don't know, be there with like top of my skull removed or something, and then like the brain above me.
That would be really cool.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's probably kind of weird and stuff.
I don't think it's weird or macabre, because again, so many people learn so much from that kind of thing that people are quick to dismiss it as being weird, but they've never been in a situation where they need to learn those things. The second you are, like, for medical purposes, that shit's not weird anymore. That's called life-saving later on, in my opinion, anyway.
That is awesome. I research things like coroners and people who work at the different areas of funeral homes, what they do. I look for all types of biographies explaining why and what they found and why it impacted them 4 years down the road. It's like, it's definitely not weird. It's amazing.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
Well, okay, as we're hitting just about the 3.5 hour mark, and I know Jeremy needs to get going pretty soon, and we've been on quite a while because we've been all about squirrels this episode.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hop in and tell you guys this was my inspired by Leo, one of the true stories that I had. So this is the tale of the pizza place and the police. And when I was about 15, 20 years ago, I was living here in Lincoln, and I was in need of a new job, and a pizza place was hiring a manager, and I had management experience, and I went into my interview, and it appeared as though I wasn't sure if I was going to get it. And he contacted me a couple days later, though, and was like, yeah, you're our general manager. Come in. He bought the place from a place that used to be a pizza restaurant right before that. So he kept all the equipment and everything. And so all we had to do was like clean it up. But the place was rated so badly. There was a reason that it closed down, and we had to clean all this horrible shit up. But it finally got going, and I noticed a trend in the employees that he hired, and most of them were very, very, very not bright individuals. And I'm not going to say where it was or call anybody out by name, but I got to where I did some hiring, and there was also like a computer in the background, and I'm pretty sure that I got hired as the manager because I was the youngest applicant that there was on the list. And so he was assuming that I wouldn't be keeping track of as much shit or whatever. And there was a computer back in the office that he swore didn't work, but it worked. It just didn't have a mouse. And he didn't know how a computer was to function without a mouse because he wasn't very bright himself. And so I got the computer up and running. They had all of their old stuff on there. So I just switched out the names on things, and I was able to start tracking food costs and all of that stuff. And what it turned out to be was that the guy had opened up the restaurant to begin with as a check kiting scam and was just trying to launder the money through the place and didn't intend for it to succeed. He was hiring people on purpose to make it end up being closed down so that he could get some insurance money from it as well. But we started actually making the place run, and it was getting very disturbing for him. He'd come in and try to take just money out of the drawer to go do things. And we're like, oh, got to write down how much that was. And that he came in and got it. And he was like, but why are you doing? And I was like, so that we make sure that the drawers come out right in the end so that we know if anybody's stealing or not. And so with the ridiculous amount of employees that he had hired that were just not so bright, we of course had a number of mishaps that happened. And in the neighborhood we were in also, it was a pretty bad neighborhood as far as Lincoln goes. Like there was one time where we would prop open the door because all of us were smokers, and we'd all go sit out if there was nothing going on at middle of the afternoon, have a quick store meeting of just sitting around and having a smoke outside. And like we watched a guy get busted for drugs at the Dollar General across the parking lot from us and stuff. And there was anthrax put in the mailbox also in the parking lot with us. But so we saw the police around on a semi-regular basis. And the one time I get a call, and it was like not my shift. I wasn't supposed to go in that day, but I had to get somebody to pick me up because the police are here. Okay, well, why is that a big deal? The police have been there for a number of times. No, they're in here. They're fingerprinting right now. I'm just like, what? And when I got there, it turns out we had one kid who was still in high school, and we're going to call him Joe. And Joe was one of those scrawny, super tall kids who wanted to be super gangster, and he wore his pants like basically around his ankles, pretty much as far as doing the baggy pants thing goes, because belts hurt, apparently, to wear. But we all knew that he was a big stoner, but he was apparently also dealing. And we didn't know that. And he went out on his break one time and met with his dealer, who assaulted him to get all of the money that he had and then take off. And he came back inside and called the police to report the assault and admitted that it was his drug dealer that had attacked him. And then the police immediately caught the drug dealer. He hadn't really gone that far, but they were holding on to like a couple of pounds of weed, as well as quite a bit of amphetamines as well, or methamphetamines. And so they just immediately blamed it on Joe and said, oh yeah, and we also stole his drugs. So these were all his drugs. And somehow that turned into the police showing up, fingerprinting our entire store, Joe getting taken in. And so one of our aprons was actually in an evidence bag because he'd been wearing it when he went outside to get assaulted. And then, yeah, so that happened, and he got to the police station, and they had patted him down and stuff. And when they were done, they were like, okay, son, let's get you in here so we can start talking about what happened. He's like, oh, you missed my pipe. And like pulls it out and hands it to him. And Joe just wasn't very smart. And he had another couple of things that happened around there. But that was his big time with the police and trying to clean up. If you've ever had your place dusted for prints, which only the pizza place, as far as I know, that stuff gets everywhere. And so cleaning, we had to like basically call in all of our staff to clean up for it, close down the store for a little while so we could get everything clean. But we had another genius who worked for us that he was an older gentleman and he still lived with his mom. And I don't believe he was like on the spectrum or anything like that. He just was not a very smart dude. It wasn't like a social type of communications thing. He just wasn't the brightest bulb in the bunch. And he was constantly dating strippers who would constantly have him like pay for their phone bills and then not hang out with him for another month. And he did things like, there was one time when we had to have there was a pizza delivery that went out, and they call us up and they're like, yeah, so Kevin, for example, delivered her pizza and there was a Band-Aid in it. And we're like, okay. So he gets back and we're like, there was a Band-Aid in the pizza. He's like, oh yeah, I wondered where that went. It was like, okay, you are no longer touching the pizza stuff. Got it. You're not around there. Because there were also times where it was like, go wash your hands. You've been out on delivery. I already did once today. Okay, you aren't around any food prep areas at all. And so got him down to where, right before the Band-Aid incident, though, was one of the hardest explanations I've tried to deliver in my life. And it was just showing him how a pizza was cut. And this Kevin, as they call him on Reddit, sat down, and the story is posted on Stories About Kevin on Reddit. So really obscure chance that you might have heard it. But needed the pizzas cut into, like 6, and then they get bigger. As they get bigger, you cut them more slices. But we had diagrams of each thing, and he was like, okay, so how do I cut this one? And I'm like, you cut it down the middle. Like, how do you know where the middle is? And I was like, well, it's the center, the middle of the pizza. But the center, I don't know how to find it. And I had this man was in his 50s, and I have no idea how to explain it. I was like, you cut it in half. Yeah, but how? And I'm showing him pictures, and it's just like, okay, just go over there. Just drive. That's all you need to do from now on. All you have to do is be a driver. And we had him out on delivery one night, and I get this phone call, and it's him. And he's like, yeah, I was just in a car accident. And I'm like, five blocks, 10 blocks, something like that away from the delivery. So if you want to call him and let him know, and he's been out for like 45 minutes, so the pizza's cold, and it was in a car accident, so probably jolted around a little bit in the box. He's like, if you want to just let him know, I'm going to walk over and deliver the pizza, and then I'm going to go to the hospital, because that's going to get me a really big tip, I think, if they see me showing up all bloody with their pizza, because that's how determined I was. And I'm like, no, dude, you just go to the hospital. That's what you do. You don't show up bloody with the pizza. We'll call them and let them know. No, I really want it. It's like, you can hear the police in the background trying to convince him to like just hop in the ambulance and go. And we finally like got him to go. But yeah, that's my fun story of working with terribly incompetent people and having the police show up and have an evidence, fingerprint everything, and have an apron and evidence. So that's my fun story of where I worked.
Wow.
Nice.
There was no Yakuza. We did have one guy who got paranoid enough at one point that he thought he discovered the check kiting was going on. And so he assumed that we were under surveillance or something, especially after with all the police, like they busted the guy right across the parking lot from him. He thought that was an even deeper undercover operation. They were monitoring us. So I came into him taking apart the phones, and the clocks were all off the wall, and he was like looking for bugs that might have been planted in the store by things. And we had to let him go too, but for entirely different reasons. But yeah, that was my fun story for the night. So
nice.
That
think we
had to be insane and tiring.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah,
I
dealing
wanted
with
to.
those people, like, and I
I
don't
wanted
mean
to
those
fire them
people
somewhere.
by those people. I mean the people you were working with.
Yeah.
I tried to fire the one guy so many times, the older guy, and he would come into my office in tears, and then I would be like, I can't fire him, man. This is his only source of income. And like his mom would always be calling to check up on him. I'm like, yeah, because he'd lie to her about going to work, and so I'm like, I'm 22 years old, and I'm letting a 50-something-year-old man's mom know that he didn't skip work and lie to her, like he's out breaking curfew or something.
Nice.
That's wild.
But he delivered a pizza to me once after I was no longer working there, and I was just like, okay, I'm never ordering from them again, because I've worked with that man and I know what happens. But,
Yeah.
So anyway, we have gone over 3.5 hours now tonight.
It's the longest show we've done in a while, actually.
Yeah, except for when Drew wanted to push to see how long we could get going. I think this is one of our long ones. But
How long Drew got you guys on here for?
It was a
4
little
hours
over,
and 25 minutes.
Yep. And I had to edit that not that long ago.
It was our record, though.
We've been talking about still to raise money, like but for charity and for network stuff, doing like a 24-hour thing where we just take control at different points with everybody just getting involved and like something fun for that, just to see if we can actually do it. 'Cause I've actually done it before for podcasting for like the whole 24 hours. My old network sometimes would pay all our fees for an entire year from doing that, plus give money to charities. So hopefully that's the thing we can bring back and give a shot one day soon.
Oh yeah, definitely.
What's Guinness's longest podcast?
Don't know. It's still going on to this day.
I was so much more obsessed with the Guinness Book of World Records in like the 80s.
153
the books.
hours.
153 hours.
That's a few days. I wonder
That
how
is-
many hosts they're allowed to have.
I'll research that and find out because that would be
kind
interesting.
of interesting. 153 hours. That's what.
Just take shifts and just keep the show going.
It's what? That's like 6 days. That's almost a week, right?
I can't math at the moment.
I know 72 is 3 days, so 72 and 72 is one.
Yeah, it would be about 6 1/3 days.
Yeah, almost a week.
So yeah,
I mean, that'd be something.
if you have people like tag in and out, that would be kind of nice. Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see how that 24-hour one goes sometime in the future, and if we feel confident and when we can follow the rules, maybe we'll give that a shot.
Give me enough coffee and marijuana, and I'll be there.
I'll have the Raz sleep cam. Like, you'll see me take a micro nap like once every day for like an hour. Then I'll wake up with the same energy, like, "Hey, I'm back on the air." And then I'll quietly die for a month after.
Yep. Used to do cons like almost every other week, and I'd have to run panels the whole time, do like 5 or 6 panels a day. By the end of the con, I was just dead, and I hadn't been diagnosed and stuff, but at that time I thought it was just the normal thing for somebody after that to go into fucking a depression mode for like 2-3 weeks and become a complete hermit. But yeah, it was crazy, man. I can't do cons like that anymore. It's just like,
I did a period of time when it was like that. I mean, I didn't do panels, but it was, like all the indie films I was doing. It was signing autographs, showing the movies at this place, that place, having to do panels. Well, I guess it was kind of a panel, but it was only for the people in the movie where like the Q&A stuff after. You get so much of that. There's just so much people. And same thing happened to me, dude. I would do that like for long periods of time, and then you just be like, dude, I need like a month to just recharge my batteries and not be around any other human beings.
Exactly. No, I've got two cons coming up in like September and the end of August where I have to run a bunch of panels. But the good thing about it is it's at these 2 horror cons. Last year I was like totally freaked out about this. But they treated me like a god there. It was so nice. I've never been like, it's the first time I had done horror cons to that level, and it was beautiful. Like the attendees, the people who ran it, very good stuff, and all the guests. Like I was sitting there with some of the Jasons and friggin' Leatherfaces. It was very cool stuff.
The cool thing about horror cons is like doing stuff like that. People actually walk up and thank you.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and it's like,
oh, dude, I came out of one of the panels. To me, running a panel is all about making the guests as interesting as possible and making sure they're as accessible as possible to the audience. I'm a second thought. I explain at the beginning of each panel, I'm like, if you want to hear about all my questions, we can go on forever about whether or not Kane Hodder here has ever cried before or something like that. But if you want to know about your movies, your like whether or not he like broke his arm when he was ripping that kid up or whatever, those are the questions you're going to have to ask. So I try to latch onto a person in the audience that you can tell they're just full of like guspo and like got the gift to
read the crowd.
Yeah. But
man.
And then come out afterwards and the people would just be like, that was the best panel I've ever been at. I'm like, really? Because like I'm still shaking.
I've hit this moment now where, with Elliott being like, this is the 4-week mark? 3-week mark or 4-week mark? Like, I'm just so absolutely comfortable with you guys that I'm legitimately constantly forgetting that we're actually doing this for a show, that we're not just hanging out and bullshitting. Because I just looked up and saw live for 3 hours and 42 minutes. It's like, oh shit, we're still live.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So,
I swear, a half hour ago I said I had to go.
Yeah. Speaking of Kane Hodder, actually coming up this week, or not this week, but this month, we are going to be doing a Kane Hodder box on Unwrap, and we'll get the information up for that pretty soon.
Yeah, cool.
But let us say goodnight.
You should ask Leo if I don't know if he has full. We'll talk about it after the show.
Yeah. Anybody got anything else? I know we can all. We're all in the comments, but does anybody have anything else coming up?
Talk about? Oh, go ahead. You first, Jeremy.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I'm starting my re-education of Nancy Ann Ritter show tomorrow night. It is going to be recorded, not going to be live. Fingers crossed that everything actually happens that's supposed to happen, and somebody actually shows up to their at the designated time, and
Yeah.
celebrities are not easy to work with.
Nope.
But yeah,
Oh, come on.
here's hoping.
awesome,
So
man.
Nancy Ann Ritter,
Keep an eye.
the bathroom girl from Scream.
Hell yeah, man. That's fucking awesome. And we'll put
And we
links up
shall
too on the Elliott
load-
Network. Like,
yeah.
we'll put links up when you get that going. Like, as soon as it's
Cool,
up
man.
for everybody, we'll blast it all out.
Yeah, we're planning to do both podcast, or both audio and the regular podcasts of YouTube as well. But
Very cool.
the
Very
audio
nice.
is really where I want to really put it out there.
Hell yeah.
Awesome.
I want to do two quick shout outs. I mean, I'm wearing my Hell's Dungeon shirt today, obviously, because I was there most of the day. My Freak Show crew, some of them were in here earlier. We had Jessica, the Bearded Lady. We had Cameron, which is Ziggy, the eyeball guy. Man, we busted ass and got a lot of shit done at the haunt today. So love to you guys and everybody actually out at HD. And today also the crew for the film Unforgiven 3. I filmed me and Matt both filmed our first scenes for the whole movie today. They're actually also at the haunt. So like, it was a great experience. I absolutely had so much fun with them today. So I'm really looking excited. I'm excited and looking forward to doing that a lot more. And I don't know, like coming out of retirement and back into film that I said I wasn't going to do anymore. I don't know. I realized how much I missed it. And like, I'm not saying I'm good at it, but just how enjoyable it was and how natural it felt just coming back after a many, God, like at least a 5-year or more absence from actual film. So it was really cool. And I really
podcasting, man.
I felt that way too after my long absence getting back to it. Yeah. But thank you guys for bringing me and Matt out there. Like we absolutely loved it. We love you guys and we can't wait to do it again.
Oh yeah.
Jenny, got anything for tonight?
Not this Monday, but next Monday we have another episode of Unprinted Pages. I am going to surprise you with the guests as soon as they give me yay or nay. And definitely tune in tomorrow for the first session back with D&D.
No, that's not tomorrow. That'll be in 2 weeks from tomorrow.
2 weeks from tomorrow?
Yeah, we had some change ups, so yeah, it's going to be 2 weeks from tomorrow. 2 weeks from tomorrow.
Yeah.
So my brain and calendars are not friendly at the moment.
Yeah, but then we'll be getting on a full rotation for all of our shows. We'll get everything.
But
up
it is
for you
a
guys to have
guaranteed
calendar.
return, though. It's a guaranteed in 2 weeks, so it's more programming for you guys.
Yay!
Woo!
All right. And on that note, thank you all for showing up. Have a good night.
Enjoy the